on lure fishing for snapper?
Yeah.
A few of you did, yeah. And any of you guys been out in that terrible 30-knot wind since then? No, didn't think so. Okay, so yeah, the weather's been terrible. We tried to get it yesterday morning, Stuart and I. We want to get some footage of flow line for snapper, and we woke up at, Stuart met me at 4 o'clock, and it was blowing, I think it was 13 to 15 knots from the east. And then we said, okay, let's just wait till 4:30. Next weather report comes through, the latest observation. We check out it's called latest weather observation. If you ever check that out, it's updated every half hour. And you can look at the seaway, you can look at Point Lookout, you can look at Cape Morton. It sort of gives you some idea, and it turns how far out you're going to go, right? So anyhow, we had a look, and it picked up from 11 to 13 to 12 to 15, I think. And that was at 4:30. I said, okay, let's do a 5 o'clock one. We're in the tower. Well, it's in the tower now, so they say. They said 11 to 13, and then we said, okay, if it drops, 13 to 15. 13 to 15, that's right. I said, if it drops back under 15, we're going to go at the 5 o'clock one. So 5 o'clock come, and I just rang the tower, they said 11:15. And they said 11 to 13. I said, Stuart, that's it, we're going. It's going to drop off. It's supposed to be 10 knots variable, right, in the morning, and swing around 10 to 15 in the afternoon from the east, and a bit of showers, whatever. So anyhow, we go in the dark and get out to the seaway, and it's already very joshly, and the water, the tide was coming in still, just towards the top, and then we bashed away out in this cracking sunlight, and it was pretty wet. It was like pretty ugly. And anyhow, I said, it's not quite right. So I looked on the latest observation on my phone, 22 knots. It was shit. Yeah. Anyhow, it was terrible. And so we said, look, we're here. Let's just keep bashing our way out. So we bashed our way out to just the 18 straight at the front, which is on your mark. And the sheet here, so everyone's got a sheet in their bag. So we're going to go through this all night, okay? So I want you guys to understand where we are and what we're looking at and what sort of country we're going to be fishing. So we bashed our way out on the first one, which says under 50 metres. We were exactly about the third mark down. Actually, a tiny bit north of that, but that's about where we were, which is about 33 metres deep, 105 feet comes up to, sort of thing, in the old foot mark. And we pulled up, and then it poured down rain. And then there was another boat out there, which was Timmy. You saw Timmy out there?
Yeah.
He braved it out, actually. We'd come back. So we did one drift backing up into it, and while he was back, and we just pulled the pin. It's too terrible. Anyhow, then it poured down rain all the way back. So the weather's been terrible. But this weekend, there is a little window. It did say Sunday, and now it's saying Saturday's better. So I don't know if you guys can get Saturday off, but Saturday at this stage looks like the pick of the days as of tonight. It's about 4 to 8 knots all day. Then Sunday morning's good to about 7, and then at 7:30 to 8 o'clock it picks up to about 15 knots, and by 10 it's about 20, and showers. Going back to the southeast from the east, northeast. So what would I do Saturday? Well, after we talk about all this, I would say probably if you only got a little boat, I'd be definitely going to 18s or maybe the 24s straight out front, which we'll talk about the marks later. And I'll show you a bit of footage of what you can catch on the 18s. And then, but if the weather's really cruddy, I would probably stick it in that same depth, 18 fathoms or something like that. If the weather's all day Saturday really good, if your boat's big enough, I'd be probably hitting the 50s, because we were out there last Wednesday, or Thursday before the seminar.
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Whatever that was last week. Okay. We had reasonable weather. It was around 10 to 12 knots most of the day. Got about 15 one stage. And the snapper were good. Like we got some fish in the 80 centimetre size. So they're out the 50s as well. But you can catch pearlies and stuff like that too. And dolphin fish, whatever. So anyhow, we're going to go through the gear tonight. So what we use. And I'm going to start at the type of line first, and why I use mono, why I use braid. And then we're going to talk about the size of sinkers we're going to use, the size of the hooks we're going to use. Do we use gang hooks? Do we use single? Do we use snelled hooks? And go from there. Then we're going to just a standard paternoster type rig, 3-hook type rig, or 2-hook type rig in a row. And then we're going to talk about live baiting for snapper as well. So, Stewie, your favourite styles, float lining?
I like float lining.
Yeah.
Float lining is very, you're always active, you're always actively doing something. Bottom fishing doesn't really do it for me. Send it to the bottom, get a little rock cod and all that stuff. You get a lot of good fish as well, but it's definitely better. You get a better class fish floating that bait down. The bigger fish are higher in the water column, and the little stuff just sheltering that reef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty all right on most of that stuff, but I don't get to trouble a little rock cod in my spots. Yeah. So anyhow, so line. Okay. If I'm using mono, and I think Stuart probably say the same, I use mono on some of my bait runners, and some of my bait runners have got braid. That's a personal choice, okay? The reason why I like braid over mono in total on all my lines is I can use a lot thinner braid, but therefore I can use a lot smaller sinker. So if I was using 30-pound mono, and this is probably the thinnest mono you can get, it's a new one, it's very thin and very abrasion resistant as well. But if I was using, say, that in 10 knots of wind, a little bit white capped, and I'm fishing in 60 metres, I'd have to be using at least 2-ounce sinker to get it down float lining, right? If I'm using 30-pound braid, which is, I will pass those two around. I'll pass these two around actually. You can take the line out and have a look. If I'm, sorry, this one here, sorry Stu, that one. You can compare the thickness. If I'm using 30-pound braid, I can get away with using, so that's what I was using in the 36s. I can use about a size 4 ball. So it's like about, I think
it's probably about
just over, yeah, not quite 3/4, about 5/8, yeah. So it's like less than half the weight. So my bait's a lot more nicer in the water, right? It's like falling, same speed as the fast one, but it's a lot more nicer in the water, and also the fish pulls on it, or if they're a bit fussy and they feel the weight of that, they may not hit it as hard. They feel the weight of that's nothing, they'll just stop it and take off. So it enhances your fishing, I believe, using the braid in situations which is unfortunately most of the time when it's crappy weather. If you've got good weather though, mono can be an advantage to you because you got that stretch and the delay and the hookup rate's better. It sort of sets the hook in, and but the feel's not as good. But when a big one hits you, you feel it. Don't worry, you don't need to feel it. They don't hardly go bite, bite, bite. It's always just bang on the fall. Okay, so it's just what, as I said before, it's personal. I know. What do you like, mate?
I do fish braid predominantly. I'm going to give mono a crack this year. Something different. But I think as well, if you do fish mono, it's always better on an overhead. Comes off nicer. Yep. It's not so coily. Anyone that's ever tried to cast a weight with a spin rod with mono is very coily. It's horrible. It chokes really bad. Whereas a free fall on an overhead, it's very free. Yeah.
Agree. So, any questions on the line at all? You'll understand that. And then in the line, two guys, there's different braids. We keep talking about this as well. The braid coming around is 30-pound, but it's 1.5 in thickness. So it's very, very thin. It's, and then other braid that's like, say, J braid is P3 and it's 30 pounds. So it's double thickness. So it depends on what quality of braid you want to go. People say, well, the thinner one's going to break off in the rocks easier. Hey, that might be true, but generally we're using a leader of some type, 40-pound, 30-pound, whatever it might be, or fluorocarbon, and that should eliminate the problem of the braid getting nicked on the rocks, because your leader's normally a metre or 1.5 metres long, so that'll help it. But definitely the advantage of the thin braid, and as I said before, everything else that goes with it, is that it suits better for me, anyhow. Paul? Yeah, so colour braid, that's a good question too, Paul. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I don't want to use a bright colour because the fish see it. But I don't think they see it at all. They see the leader, but they're looking at the bait. And it's more the resistance in the water and the resistance they feel pulling on it is far more important than the colour that they see. So you're better off eliminating that first and then worry about the colour last. Multicolour, 100% would be my go-to. Obviously you can't count the colours off when you're casting it, but you sort of know the zone is in that red colour when you're getting hit all the time. Well, it helps so much. If you're using it overhead and you're just feeding it down, that's the ideal day when you get no wind, no current, and straight down. And you've got a burley trail happening, that's when you don't cast. You want to work your burley trail. And those days are definitely the coloured lines, 100% so good. Because you especially got mates somebody that don't fish, they don't know. You just say don't drop it more than 5 colours down because they're only fishing 40 metres deep, you know. Where other guys, they just keep letting out. You know, they're going to get tangled on the bottom or get tangled on this line. because they don't know when it's on the bottom. They don't know when it's touched. So Stewie's still using that way.
That's right. Yeah.
So
When it stops, it's on the bottom. No.
that's it. You put a bigger sinker on that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So sinker size is important. Again, people say, well, if it's a running sinker, why would you have to worry about the size of the sinker? Because they hit it most on the floor, like I said earlier. So when it's free falling and just going down, waffling down nicely, if that sinker is just a little bit of sag in it, and they hit it, they're a bit fussy, like I was saying, they hit it, they will sometimes maybe not hit as hard, or they'll just stop for a second, not take it. So that's why if you're using a paternoster style, it's a different scenario, because your sinker's on the bottom, and you never want it to actually come off the bottom. You want it to be on the bottom, and you're fishing the slack in your line. So that's like it free falling, so to speak, because it's loose, and that's where they attack it. But if it's getting dragged tight, you just get little crap biting it. So it's like using a big sinker, because it's always tight, because the sinker's always on the bait. So you want it to be light and waffling down. Use small sinkers anyhow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Leader wise, I said I prefer to use it. I still use light stuff, and
He's very light.
but we catch different size fish. So Stewie, what size do you use, mate?
I use maximum 20. Maximum. Yeah. Oh, maximum 30, sorry. But predominantly, let's say 12 to 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very light.
So I would use...
And long, like 3 metres. Yeah.
If I'm using overhead, I'll use maybe 2 metres or 3 metres. Speed, I use about 1 metre, because I'm trying to cast and I'll get one not caught up on the line.
Yeah. If you tie a good knot, it will never get caught.
True.
But Doug's still on the big knots.
Got me there. Lots of knots, mate. Lots of knots.
That's right. Yeah.
So I use about 30 pound minimum. 40 pounds is my go-to. And if I'm using live baits, I use nothing under 60 or 80. And I've so many times, even on that reef I'm talking about, the third one down there, I've been smashed on 80. I've had to go to 100, but they're 10 kilo fish or metre fish nearly, So you need to up the ante a bit. And many times I've gone, just getting done. You think they're big jewies or what they might be, but they're not being big snapper, a real big snapper. And you've just got to go to 100 pound leader. They don't care about the thickness. They're just smacking those baits like you wouldn't believe. This is normally in June, July. Okay, June, July. But so leader wise, you need to have a few sizes in your boat, which you should have anyhow, sort of from 30 to 100, because you probably do light baiting and that as well. So just whatever you need to on the day. If you're getting done more than once, upgrade the size of the leader, because you're just going to keep getting done and done. When those big ones school up, they're not one loan of fish. They can be 20 fish, all around 900 long, schooled up together, swimming around, and it's just a fest. They just smash it. It's 2 or 3 lines at one time, and that's when you realise you get upgraded. Yeah, the tackle will stop them. It's just that they'll get you on the bottom. If you ever get a chance, I keep mentioning this too, but if you ever get a chance, watch Roscoe, the jet ski fisherman on the Gold Coast, the old Roscoe. Watch that one where he's got a water wolf camera on the live bait, and he puts it down and the snapper hits it. It's around about an 85, 90 centimetre snapper, around 10 kilo. And it absolutely smashed his live bait. And when he pulls on it and you watch the camera, and it feels the resistance, and it just goes straight down looking for rocks. And that's when they pull the line off. And if you haven't got enough tension on there, but you got to obviously know your tension, otherwise it'll get done. But it goes down this little crevice about this wide, which is not much wider than a fish, and it's about that deep. And it just beelines straight through, and it's bumping its head, smacking its head all the way through, trying to get whatever it's in its mouth out. Very good video to watch, because you understand what's happening when you're at this end of it and they're at that end of it. So have a look at it, please, if you can. Great, good thing to do that. Okay, so that's our sinker range. So the sinker size depends on the line size and the leader size and the current and the wind. It all depends on that. So if I can get away with using a little tiny ball sinker like that, and there's no current, no wind, which is a 0 ball, and I'm only using, say, 20 or 30 pound braid, I'll definitely use that size sinker. Might take a while to get down, but once it gets in the zone, halfway down or plus, it'll just get absolutely smashed by Mac tuna. No, it'll get smashed by a snapper, hopefully. So, and when I'm fishing out in the deeper water, you know, sometimes when I'm fishing out the 50s, you have to use a lead like that, which is like about a 8 ounce or a 10 ounce. That's a 10 ounce actually, 250 grams. So it's a lot bigger lead. But you can't, or actually we can buy ball sinkers now at the size 16, Jamie's
Yeah,
16.
massive.
But how do you use to put that type of sinker on? Well, what you do, have any of you guys seen this type of thing here, this slide thing? Okay, I'll show you how they work real quickly, because it's a good thing to have in your boat, the cheapest chips. Sorry, my glasses on. Sorry, Stuart. So what I normally do, thanks mate. What I'd normally do is you've got just a minute if I rig this up real quick, please, because I'll pass it around and you've got some idea how it works. I'll just shorten it up a little bit though.
Stu,
Yes.
did you say you used 12-pound braid or 12-pound lead?
Leader. Yeah.
Very thin.
Yeah.
Pound leader?
Yep.
Was it made of titanium?
No, no, just fluoro. Like fluorocarbon leader, Dave's got a lot better abrasion resistance, and yeah, it's not too bad. You get done occasionally, but you get more bites, a lot more bites.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I don't use that one. Sorry folks, nearly there. How many people here use gang hooks for float lining? A few of you do. If you haven't, try it. It works very, very good. The beauty of it is every time you pull on your snelled hook rig, what happens is generally, unless you're good at doing it, it pilchard bends, and if you sort of give it a bit of a jerk, you miss the fish, and you let the bait go back down again without winding all the way up, the bait will be bent, and then it spins in the current, and they won't touch it. They rarely come back for it. So if you use a gang hook and you pull on it, it's still straight, and it's more natural. But you know, back in the old days, that's all we ever used was gang hooks. But obviously they're not as good as a snelled hook as long as you put the bait on properly. Oh, I've got to get some pictures too, I forgot. We'll do it later. Yeah, that's what later. So let's put a hook on the end here, just any hook. Actually, I'll put one of these. Yeah, it's the gang. Actually, I'll put one of these on. We'll come back to hooks a bit later, but just I'll use one of these true turns. Anyone use the true turn, like the 2 hook rigs at all? Anyone use those at all? They're really good. They're really good. Fish don't fall off them either. A little bit expensive, but they're quality. And 2 6.0s or 2 5.0s, even 4.0s are big enough. I like to use 2 5s or 2 6s. And I'm using them on, I cut the sort of 1/3 of the pilchard off, the bottom end, and use just the top 2/3 of the pilchard, and they're really good on there. Nearly done, guys. So I'll show you how the sinker works. So you got to put a ring or a swivel on there, okay? That's the first thing, because that designates where the sinker's going to go to at the maximum down to the hook. You don't want to put it right above it, because the sinker's too big and it tends to always sort of hover over the bait. It's just too hard for it to pull through. But if you've got a little bit of lead like that on, it gets a little bit of current, at least that length. I'd make it probably double that length. But it's got more availability to waffle around the current and pull through the sinker better. Does that make sense? Where if the sinker's here and the bait's there, it can't really do much. It needs to have a bit of freedom to be able to pull through. So please remember to have it.
Any size sinker?
Any size sinker. Yeah, so a metre, but we're talking about this big baby at the moment. So yeah, but that would be any size sinker pull. And so what we do is we make that part there a little bit longer. We thread on one of these things here. So this is obviously coming out of the rod. So before I tie it onto the outside end of the ring, I thread this on, then I tie it onto the ring. But because we're working in reverse here, I'll put it on now. So that's coming out of my rod, okay? So I've got this blue thing on there, and I've got that on there. So what we do here, this thing here, it's got a little loop at the top here, And all I do is I know you can't see it in the back, but you get the gist of it when I pass it around. You just hook it in, and it's got a little loop on the top of the sinker. So the same thing works on snapper leads. You could put a 30-ounce sinker if you got 4 knots of current in the 50s, and float line sink fish with it. Okay, so you put that on and do the system, and you just use the bigger brother to it, which is that size there, and you can put that on and float line out in 4 knots of current in 100 metres deep. So same deal. So this goes down with it. Obviously, it's going to go down a little bit faster, but you're fishing in deep water, so it'll slow the pace down going down because it's so deep, and you'll have drag on your line. But when it hits the bottom, that sits like that. The fish bites, it pulls the line through without feeling any resistance. Okay.
So you reckon that's a better system than using like a snare hook with a sinker on your leader?
Not if it's no current or not much current.
Okay.
So when I'm talking like if you fish even on 24s, you do get strong current, right?
Yeah.
But anything above 2 ounce or 3 maybe, there's a 3 there. I'll pass that around too.
Yeah.
That's the maximum I'd fish before I went to that system.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like about a 10 ball. So anything above a 10 ball, you need to get away and make it more easier for the. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's more easier to pull the line through than the line going through a
So
sinker.
why does that have to be a heavier sinker to use that system? Why couldn't you use a lighter sinker?
You can use a lighter sinker, but it's hard to get them with clips on them, mate. You can get those little.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't get the sinker.
Yeah. Okay.
So they only do them in the bigger sizes, or you go the bigger clip, which I passed one of these around, but this one here, but they're chunky. So more chunky, less bites, I believe. So it's in a system when we've got strong current and probably fishing at least 60 or 70 metres deep, or 100 metres,
Yep.
stuff like that. But if you're up north chasing red, say in 80 metres or whatever, and ripping current, this is what you use for red emperors and stuff like that system. Thanks, Jeff. So just try to keep it in your head, size 10 ball or size 3 ounce, maximum float lining, then switch to the system. Because it's a lot easier to pull the line through when this thing comes around. It's a lot easier to pull the line through it than it is through a sinker. Yeah, and easier for the fish to scream off with it.
What knots do you use to connect those?
Oh, just like a uni knot's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, uni knot's good, mate. Yep. Any questions on the sinker size for float lining? You all good? Okay. Try and fish as light as possible. Simple, that's the question. That's the answer, sorry. Fish as light as you can to the situation. How can you eliminate going even lighter how do you make it like lighter again? Is you cast up with the spin reel the distance of the depth if you can. And then still leave your bail arm open, a bit like I was talking about float with plastics. So if I'm using, say, that outfit there, that one there, that's about as light as I'd use in close. It's the same as my soft plastics outfit, same one. Little Zodies with a 5,000 Bamford on it. And this is on my little rig here. So I'm using a couple of 5.0s. I love these Lumo Shintos. These are made by BKK. They're very, very sharp. And I've got a little Lumo sinker on there, but it doesn't need to be a Lumo sinker as long as you've got a little bit of Lumo there. And that's only, I think that's a 3/8, which is around 10 grams. When I'm fishing the 24s, I'll cast that easy 45 metres. So I'm casting the distance of the depth. And then as soon as I'm casting it, the way I'm going to drift to, or the way, if I'm at anchor, the way the current's going, right? I cast it up into the current. And as soon as it hits the water, I don't close the bail. I just might put it in the rod holder, or I might hold it there and let it just run off, keeping it pointing in the same direction as I threw it. And trying to obviously keep it away so it doesn't go under the boat. So you've got to cast it on the right angle that it doesn't go under the boat. So otherwise you're going to get in your mate's lines over that side or around the prop or whatever it might be. And just let it keep coming off. A couple of things you can do there, and Stu would say the same thing, is to make sure your spool's fairly full. Because when your spool's, if I've got too thick a braid on or too less line on there, once it gets down about halfway, it's hard for that to climb over the lip. Now it's really easy, of course. But when it's hard to climb over that lip, if only a light sinker can't pull it, it's not enough weight on there. If you've got a big sinker on, it'll just rip it out, right? But when you have a light sinker, it takes a bit of inertia to get that going. So make sure that's fairly full. That's really important too. Before you cast it though, make sure your drag's set right. That's really important as well. So you got, if it's too tight, and I'm float lining and it's going down, then all of a sudden I see it just fly at 100 miles an hour, and I click it back and hit it, and I hit it, and this is only light lines. If that's too tight, it's just going to go snap. Okay, and if it's too loose, and I hit it, I'm not going to set those hooks, and I've just blown it. So it's one or the other. You got to get that. Always feel it before you cast it, and even check it after you got a fish. Make sure it's just that right sort of nice meaty feeling. You get to know what it is after a little while. Oops, I'm hooked up. Any questions on that at all? Okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing, like if your reels are quite full, you can let it free run off your reel. But I always pull it out and dump it on the water. So I've got a little pile of braid on the water. Braid floats, and you just watch it kind of sink, kind of spirals out, and you just watch for it to take off. It sinks a lot more freer if you just have it dumped there.
And just say, for instance, you can't cast the depth, or you do click the bar arm over and it comes down quite quick. And once it gets past the back of the boat and it hasn't hit the zone yet, or the bottom, you'll need to back the boat up a little bit. So you're forever working hard to get it all in place, but you have to do that. Any people who fish off a jet ski at all? Everyone's in boats? Okay. How many people here have tinnies that are tiller steer? Okay, you do. And anyone else? A couple of you do? You, Ben, you do? So tiller steer is like, I used to have a little tiller steer, a little 35, and they're forever going like that to that, right? And you can't really stop that because you're trying to do everything as well. So you just need to give it a bit of grunt, so you back fast, quick, and then the momentum of the boat will kick going a bit once you pull it back neutral straight away. If you try and idle back slowly, it never works, especially in a bit of wind or whatever. The only hassle is you get a bit of a wave over the back if it's a bit rough doing that at speed, but you get more bites and more control of your line. If you've got a bigger boat though, you can just sort of idle back into it. But you need to back up. And as I was saying, so many paternoster type rig, the fish, they're either going to hit it while it's sinking down naturally, waffling down, but if it hits the bottom, you don't get a bite before that period. The next thing's going to happen is the momentum of the boat going forward, or the current or wind's going to lift your line and make it taut, and they don't really like that too much unless they're feeding hard. So when it's taut, you'll know if you back the boat up and it goes loose, it's like the free fall effect, and then they just slam it. So I'll be looking at it, and for something to stop, they're going to smash it straight away. If they're going to chase it, they're going to work for it, and it's not going to be as good a bite scenario. So you keep backing up, making it easy for the fish, but also easy for you to get the bite. Anything to add to that on it?
No, that's about it, yeah. If you do have an electric, you can always
electric's different again,
drive with it or angle with it as it drifts. It's quite handy. Or you can anchor and float line it back traditionally, but yeah.
And if you add anchor, or with the electric motor add anchor, you'll need to work out the current. That's the next thing. So if that sinker there's, I've thrown up and I've got it in free spool and it's gone really quick, I've got to put a big sinker on it because it's going to get in the zone and it's going to lift straight off out of it, and that's not going to work for me. So I'd rather have something that's falling quicker but staying in the zone longer than something that's slower naturally going down, because you won't get as many bites because it goes back up in the air too high. So does that all make sense? So you need to put a bit bigger sinker on. Okay. Hooks. Now we're just going to talk about hooks. So we've gone from the sinkers now on the line to the hooks, and we talked about gang hooks. So in gang hooks, there's so many different gang hooks these days. In your packet, you've got the basic one, but they are sharp hooks. They're very chemically sharpened hooks. But other gang hooks you can get are like the True Turns I showed before in 2 or 3 gangs. This is a new one from Ocean Stream. They're probably the best standard swivel rig hook rig, if that makes sense. They're quite good. And then you can get like the flash little ones like L-cats and stuff like that, which are like a short live bait hook, but joined by swivels. If you try and do that yourself, we try and do it at the shop here. I don't know how he does it. He must get them done in the factory, but we break every hook we try and open.
You break so many hooks. Because hooks are very high carbon these days.
Yeah.
They're very unforgiving.
So you need to buy those, unfortunately. And then they do dress versions of it, which I'll pass a couple around, like that style. I'll pass all these around, you can have a look at them. When they get right down to the back there, guys, if you just want to throw a dump on the floor there, that'd be great, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Stuart. So that's the gang hooks version. And when you put a pilchard on, there's a couple of rules. I don't know if everyone knows. Does anyone not have a bit of drama putting pilchards on? I know a lot of people do. So don't be shy. Yeah. Anyhow, my golden rule is bum to thumb. Okay, so the bum's on the thumb side in my left hand. And my it's up near my wristwatch, tail's down near to my fingers, and there's a blue line and silver line on the pilchard, easy to see. Or it's even dotted, that's the dotted line you put the hook through, okay? It's dotted. We got them to do that for you many years ago. So, and you measure it out so the hook that's attached to the line is going to go through the eye. That's to go through the eye. So if you put it through the nose, it breaks through the nose as soon as you start winding it, and then it spins and the fish don't like it. It's got to sit natural. So don't obviously put the hooks through the eye yet. You just know that's where it's going to go. You then lay the hooks along it, and that's where you're going to start the bottom hook. That'll give you your starting point on that dotted line, or where the blue meets the silver. And you just, when you put it in, put the hook, like lay it so when you put the hook through, the hook goes through between two fingers. If you just hold it and put it through, you end up stabbing yourself, especially the bottom hook, because it's very thin down there in town and comes straight out and get you. So it sort of goes between your fingers as you're doing it. So first hook in, use your thumb, and I use that part under the pilchard, that part on top. I sort of go like that. And then I go up to the next one and go like that on the dotted line. And the last one just goes through the eye. Make sure it's not kinked up before you throw it. It's got to be nice and straight, and everything's right, and the sinker's right down there, and you hook it up. Please let go of the line at the right time. If you cast it and you let go too late, you'll rip the bait off the hook. And that we will probably, I used to have problems like that many moons ago, but my son still has problems like that. The bait goes that way, the sinker goes that way. So you got to know when to let go of the sinker. Let go of the line, sorry, as you're casting. That comes with practice. Okay, because those pilchards are quite soft. So that's that one. I do like to cut the tail off of the pilchard. I believe the tail makes it spin a bit, and I also believe if you cut the tail, it's got a bit of oil coming out, they smell it, it's a bit better. So I'm cutting it right where the V is, where it meets the meat. You just chop it there, okay, with a pair of your braid scissors. Okay. So that's on the gang hook. Then we go to single hook. So, like, I don't really use single hook for float lining.
Nah.
Unless I'm
occasionally,
cubing for
maybe half
tuna
a
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, cubing for tuna or mackerel. But I always use the two snelled hooks together, which Stuart and I have shown, I think, on videos on the YouTube thing. You can see that. But we can show you anytime in the shop you how to do it if you're unsure how to do it, or you can buy rigs that are pre-done snelled. Okay, like that style, or this style here. I'll pass these around as well. And then, so that's like that style, and this is the standard. This one here is just a stand hook. This is a little overhead I use. I love this hook, it's so soft on the tip. But they're just little 4.0 hooks, and 4.0, 5.0 now, and sinker straight on top, and my 40-pound leader. That's probably my go-to rig. But sometimes they're a little bit fussy, and they don't want to really play the game. So the dress hook rigs, I did one of these at a seminar about 20 years ago, and then we've been using them ever since. And if you look on some of the older YouTubes, you'll see I'm doing the same scenario. Everyone's sort of copying it these days, but that's such a great thing, okay? They come up spitting legs out. So 40 years ago when I was a young teenager, I was going fishing with my dad for the snapper out on the 36s. We used exactly the same sort of thing, but we used to use little squid skirts and usually Lumo. And that was back in the day, 40 years ago. And they'd come up spitting all these legs out, this big snapper. And then ever since then, the skirts got thinner. So the more thinner it is, the more fluff it is, the more nicer it is. And it's quite easy to dress one of these. Stuart's going to show you a bit later how to do it. Are you?
Yep.
Yep.
We'll do it. Yep.
Stewie's way, this is my way. We've both got a different way of doing it. I put the legs on through the eyes of the hook first. On the top when I snell, I just tie it off onto the shank, and that part just slides down on top of it. Okay? Oops, tangle. And then the sinker sits on top of that, and that's it. And what it does, I don't know if it emulates like an octopus or a squid or whatever it is, but the enhancement of biting from that standard style to that style is like superior to the max. You've all got a pack of these glow hooks in your bag, I think. Unfortunately, we can't get these anymore, but I bought lots of them at the time when we could get them. They're out, the BKK are doing them again now, but they're quite expensive, so I'm not doing what we paid for these ones. Take advantage of them while you can in that box you got. They do enhance your bite probably double. Okay, so again, it's Lumo. They just love Lumo. These sinkers, getting these Lumo sinkers is like hen's teeth. There's only 2 guys that do it that I know of in Queensland or in Australia. This guy here makes the really, really good one because it doesn't chip off. It's like a special hardened paint or something. They're powder coated, but then they're painted or something. I don't know what he does.
Yeah.
But they glow blue. So blue is the colour. They come in blue, green, pink, all different colours. But in all fishing, whether it be 15 metres or 500 metres for blue-eye cod, blue is the colour. Okay, if you're using a lights, we use flashing green lights in the deep water and flashing white lights. Blue light is like unbelievable. And now there's UV leader coming out, which is in the water looks like an iridescent blue, like the same colour as that sinker when it's glowing. So it's something that we know the fish can't control to eat. They want to eat it. Try it. You have to try it. So you've all got it there, so you've got no excuse.
Are you using 2 baits on those, or you?
One bait. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
We're just going to do the pilchard at the moment. We've got them defrosting downstairs. So when they, do you don't mind do that, Stu? Yeah. So, and Stu, not the jumbo ones. You don't mind. Probably about 2 or 3, if that's okay, mate. Thanks. And then this one here. This is one of the dressed hooks, which is, oh sorry, it's already coming around. The ones from Elcat, but I've just added a couple of the little legs, tied a couple of those little legs off on the side, those little things there, which will, I think it just enhanced it as well. But those, even just that is anyone ever used this type of stuff before? Serious? No one fished up the reef fish? Like they are, if you ever go reef fishing up at say 1770 or whatever, they are like, it's like, were you there last week? Did you really? At Musgrave?
No.
Oh yeah, when we are, yep. Yeah, right, there's sharks at that. Man, it's so painful, eh? Yeah. Big problem.
So, can you get me this one out to when you snell the hooks on
So the go is to make it about double the hook length that you use in between. And if you do a uni knot, you can sort of pull it up to where it's going to sit. Does that make sense? Then when you pull the knot tight, if you pull it up rather than slide it down, it won't go too far that way. Does that make sense? So you pull up tight that way first, and then just drop it down a little bit to lock it in. Yeah. We get some guys that don't want to do a snell knot, and they'll tie a uni knot off the hook, the top hook to the bottom hook, and make a little short leader, but it doesn't sit as nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so just keep it all short. And just take a bit of practice. You'll get it, mate. Yeah. Thanks, Stuart. Awesome, buddy. So we'll come back to this soon. Stuart is a hot fisherman. I'll defrost him pretty quick, mate. Okay, so my leader and all those were there, except my overheads are quite a bit longer. It goes all the way through the rod, as you can see. Exactly like Stuart said before. But my spin ones are, that's sort of like that one. There's that length. It's around about just over a metre, 1.2 metres. I sort of guess, like the tail of a snapper is quite powerful, right? Like any big fish. A lot of people don't understand, especially cobia, are real buggers for it. They'll have like a bit of flute along their tail or sharp scales, whatever it may be. And just when they're running that way and your line's coming back this way, that tail can easily break your braid. So I try and think, okay, well, I've got to snap at 1.2 metres, I'm going to a good snapper. So I sort of keep it at 1.2 metres because I can cast it better, as I was saying earlier.
I see with those you're not using your solid ring, you've got your sinker running right down.
Yeah, 100%. So 2 reasons for that. One is it casts better, that's probably the number one.
Yeah.
Except for when I'm using it overhead and I'm dropping it at the sides, it doesn't make sense.
So just using a small leg.
Yep, straight onto the bait, straight into the bait, mate. Yeah, so when you cast it all goes out together and casts better for you. As soon as you get it in the water though, it'll sort of free fall, but it'll end up coming away maybe a metre or half a metre. And the reason I know that is half the time it gets wrapped around the line a lot of times, so I know it's always that length. So that seems to be where it is. But when the fish hits, it'll pull quite a fair bit through it. It'll be quite long. But yeah, it's more for the casting side of it. A lot of people, like if as I was saying earlier, if you've got not too much current and you're using your electric or your at anchor and there's not much current, I don't cast, I just drop it straight because I'm burling up a lot. So I'm chopping up pillies or whatever I might be doing and I'm pushing down the burley trail. I'm sort of thinking, okay, my burley's going to, if I'm dropping it here behind the boat, it's going to land somewhere at an angle. There's not much current today, it's there, so I'll try and make my sinker size guesstimate that it's going to land similar area on a very small sinker. It might take a long time to get down. Sometimes, like Stewie said, I strip the line off to get it to go down. But when it gets in that area, it'll just zip away because it's got a snapper on it. If you've got a lot of current, obviously it's not really worth burling because your mate down the road will get all the fun out of it. And you need to up the sinker because you're never going to get down there. So different scenario. A lot of people don't understand when you're using electric outboard, they're really good for not much current and they're really good for when it's windy and not much current, but they're terrible in the current because your line just goes, doesn't reach down there. So everyone thinks I've got electric outboard, I've got helm lock on my motors, I can fish the current. Doesn't work that way. It doesn't do anything for you. It makes it worse. You're off drifting with the current. Yeah.
So you just tie your leader on to the main line, no swivel in between?
No swivel at all, mate. No. So the swivel gets in the way because like if I've got a 1.2 metre leader and my sinker's up above my swivel, it's just too hard to cast it, mate. Yeah. And so just join it with an Albright or an FG or whatever you want to do. Yeah. And I know, see, it's a pain.
We use a swivel.
Yep.
We'll have a 1.2 metre leader with a snelled hook.
Yep.
And put the sinker on, but then run it to a swivel to the main line and hook it there.
Yes, okay. So you're running the sinker between the hook and the swivel or up high?
Yeah, between the hook and the swivel.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, mate.
It's actually good because it pulls it down.
Yeah, that's right.
Rather than the sinker sink into to the bottom and you bait up here, pulling line out.
The only problem is if the fish are a bit fussy on the day, they may, because they can only pull through that much, and they'll come to a clunk. Yeah. They may let it go and swim away. But once they've got a taste,
the speed of changing rigs over out there.
It's quicker doing that way. 100%. Yeah, because you get quicker tying Albright. I like tying Albright because it's so quick, you know, seconds. Yeah. Yeah, but up to you, mate. Yeah, but that will work. Just that might be a little bit flighty on the. Yeah. Well, it's easy, right? So yeah, it's easy. No, fair enough. So any questions on that type of rig there, guys, at all? You're all good on that? Okay, we'll bait it up. Yeah, so Stewie, please.
Leader length. I know Doug fishes a really short leader. I fish a really long leader, and it's always fluorocarbon. And a lot of people don't know, but fluorocarbon sinks. Mono floats, fluorocarbon sinks. It allows you to fish a smaller sinker. So it sinks a lot more natural. So it's just a bit more gradual. You can cut down maybe just one size just by running a longer fluoro leader, but it sinks quite quick. Yeah.
And just one thing to learn too, when you're tying your knots on any fluorocarbon, you have to wet it because it heats up like 10 times more than mono.
It burns really quick.
Burns real quick, and you can easily break it if you don't heat it up, if you don't wet it. Yeah. Okay. It's painful for us in the shop because we used to show our customers, we just go, let's wet it and show the knots, but now we've got, because of COVID, we've got to get COVID juice and put on there and pull tight. Or the pump pack thing. COVID killer. Sorry. Anyhow. So we've done the hooks. I don't.
Sanitizer, good lubricant.
Yeah, sanitizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, good lubricant. The one thing I didn't talk about was circle hooks. So people do ask us in the shop here, do we use circle hooks on when you're doing snell hooks? 100% no. Okay, on a live bait, like I might use it, but I still use J hooks, like a suicide shape, Octopus style over a circle again there. The only time I use circle is when I'm either live baiting for marlin or maybe cobia. I live bait single hook that's in front of the fish, or I'll use them when I'm using a paternoster. They work really good, but for snelled hooks they work terrible. Very, very hard to hook the fish up. Okay. Yeah. So what circle hooks do? How it works is, I'll just quickly show you this. We're going to get to this in a moment anyhow, but just show you something here. This is my fancy bottom fishing outfit. Rig, sorry. So what happens is, these are circle hooks, and this is my bottom fishing rig, right? So if you can imagine this is on a snelled line, these are taut with the sinker on it all the time. Like it's a little bit loose, but it's hard for the fish. Firstly, it's hard to put your bait on two snelled hooks on a pilchard. It gets all squashed up. And the second thing is when the fish bites on it, because it's taut, it can't really roll that hook over. When it doesn't sort of roll over, but when you're using a paternoster, this is tight on the bottom, or you're backing up and this is a bit loose, but it's got to be super loose to hook up. So when it's loose like that, it's already hooked my finger already. As soon as it's loose and you pull on it, it just hooks up. But when it's taut and you pull on it, it does hook, but it's not the same. It's not as easy. So the more loose it is and the fish bites on it and you pull on it, it doesn't. You don't have to pull on it. It hooks itself. Does that make sense? So that's how circle hooks work. They've got to be loose. So if you're on a long line, the tuna fisherman, if you know how that's true, and running the long line like that, that part's loose all the time. And when the fish bites on it, as soon as it bites on it, it just hooks itself. But if it's tight, like so, if it's tight and the fish hooks on it, it can fall off. It can hook up, but it's not as easy as when it's loose. It's hard to explain. My finger's not where you guys are, but it goes straight in when it's loose. Okay, so that's how it works. So circle hooks are good when it's loose, and that's when you're using a live bait rig for marlin, and that's sitting with the rubber band on off the front of the fish. Yeah, it's loose. The sinker's still there somewhere, but that part's loose, and when it grabs it, it just hooks itself.
So when we fish with paternoster rig, we have terrible time with them twisting. Is that because of the sinker we're using? Or
Could be the knots you're using. Are you using like a proper dropper loop? See how that's dead straight?
Yep.
Are yours just like make a loop and pull it through a couple of times sort of thing?
They're a bit like in between both.
Yeah, okay. That's probably the problem. And the second thing is at the top, you should have a reasonable quality swivel.
Yeah.
Like a crane, like the ones you got in your packet today.
Yeah.
Something like that style. Yeah, so everything's in the packets, exactly what we're using tonight, what we use in our rigs. Oops, nearly got myself. Sorry. But yeah, mate, yeah, so I'll come to that in a moment though.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Dave.
So, you said before that when using the spinning rod, the line comes off and it's twisted and the rod spirals on it. Other than that, is there any reason that you would pick to use an overhead rather than a spinning reel?
I really like to use an overhead when I've got the no current situation because like I can see it come off. It's like just you're feathering it. It's easier to play with. With a spin reel, you sort of open the barrel, close it up, open the barrel, close it up. The thumb on it's a lot easier. As long as you don't burn your thumb when it takes off and don't get overrun. But you just use the lever, boom, up, you're in. But I'm only using that when there's not much current, or if I'm out in the 50s and I've got the bigger sinker system on, that's fine. But when I'm on the 24s and I'm float line fishing, I'm always using spin reels. That's my go-to. Yeah. That's why there's only 1 in 4 is an overhead. Yeah. So that's the same rigs we could take it the other day when we stood. That's why they were rigged up, but we never really got to do it properly anyhow. But that's the standard go-to for me. So a very, very light one. Oh, this one here, sorry. and then a sort of couple of medium light ones, and then an overhead. If I get the situation, I can use it. Yes,
The
Paul?
reason I wouldn't use an overhead out there is you can't chuck in the rod holder. You can't leave it on first floor the rod holder.
Yeah, that's true.
Just burns up.
Except some models have even this little tiny size, have a ratchet on, so you can put the ratchet on and just put it in free spool, and it doesn't overrun too bad.
But it won't feed out. will it?
Oh, it doesn't feed out. No, no,
Not free.
no. You're right. So in that case, as I was saying before, thumbing it, or you look for the bird's nest and the rod's going to get ripped out of the rod holder. They are awkward. You've got to use it in your hand. Yeah. There, big bit of.
What actual reel is that?
That's a little quantum one. It's Final. Yeah, they're quite a good little reel actually. Yeah, and cheap in price.
Do you use bait runner reels?
Yeah, I use bait runner all the time. I didn't bring them along tonight because I had these from the other day rigged up. Bait runners I use are mainly at anchor. I like them at anchor. I don't like them when I like them when I can just drop them straight aside and let them run out in the burley trail. They're really good for that. So a bit like Paul's saying, they're in free spool the whole time, and it just screams off, and you just pull them up and turn the handle, you know. Yeah, I use just the 8,000 size, and I do run 2 mono, 2 braid. I run 2 of each, because I'm always trying to work out which is the better way on bait runners. To me, I catch the same. It's just doesn't really make much difference. Stu, I don't use.
Yeah, I'll just use it.
Well,
for
you
the
get you
spin
use
reel.
braid, but you can try
Yeah.
mono this time though.
Yep.
Yeah. But I just suggest braid because you got better value on your sinker size. Anyhow. Yeah, so going back to this rig, so we got down now to the dressed hooks, which we talked about. You can also buy hooks that are pre-dressed, like this type of thing here, if you're a bit worried about doing it yourself. And that's the L-Cats to a whole range. You tie up your own sort of rigs. The trouble with these ones, they're all circle of some type, so they won't really work. These ones here are okay though. They're like a big gun type hook. But as I was saying earlier, you buy like this type of things and do your own type of thing. Now, just let you know, it's really hard to buy these. We've been able to buy them for 3 years, but finally we got stuff coming, and I got some really good stuff coming, which I can't tell you about till we get it, but they'll be here in May.
Yep.
And we're trying to choose a camera, and I have rigs pre-done, so all you have to do is do the Albright or the FG knot. So the rigs will be on the leader with the sinker and the rig, and you just join it and tie it to your line. Or you can buy the skirts on their own, like that type of thing. Okay. Yeah, they'll be in next month. And there's Octopus Styles.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's all different style. So anyone ever used those Octopus, the Xeric baits at all? The Octopus one?
Mustard ones, the ink vader.
Mustard ink vader. Anyone tried those yet?
Yeah.
Alright, so there's a style
The
of...
Savage gear one.
Savage do a cheap one
Yeah.
too, that's right, yeah. So there's there's going to be a lot cheaper than that. But they're just the Octopus itself without the hook rig in it. But we'll have it with our hook rig in it, does that make sense? But they'll be pretty good value, yeah. They'll be coming as well. And then, that's probably about it on this float lining actually.
Yeah.
So, where do I float line? Okay, I float line everywhere. It doesn't matter if we're in 20 metres or 120 metres, I float line. So, as I said, I just alter the sinker size and hook size to suit, and the leader to suit the area. You know, people say, well, you catch the biggest snapper in on the 18 fathom reef or whatever it might be than what you do out in the 50s, and that's probably true actually. My biggest snapper have always been caught under 40 metres deep. Up off Australia, they're 50 metres deep, but generally speaking, up in North Australia I'm talking, but generally it's under 40 or around 40 metres deep. So why do we use such light stuff, but we get 50 fathoms and we up the leader to 60 and we use 8 hooks and catching smaller snapper doesn't quite make sense. The reason being is bycatch. So you got, 20 kilo amberjacks and kings and stuff like that, which you don't get much in close. You get the odd cobia, but you don't get the other stuff. So hence why we up the scale a bit out wider. Does that make sense? How many guys here fish out in sort of to the 36 fathom reef? Say 20 k's out? More than half you, and 50 fathom reef? No, okay, Paul does. How many guys have got boats that are 5 metres? Okay, and 5.5 metres? Maybe 10 of you, or 15, and 6 metres. Probably 10 of you again. So all you guys are 6 metres, or even 5.5 metres. When you understand your boat, what it can do, and you feel confident, you can easily fish the 50 fathom reef on most days when it's good, without any stress. But I'll do it with another guy, another boat, of course. But your boat will, as long as it's a seaworthy boat, will handle it. But if you've got I might get a little 4.8 metre Hornet, and I take that out to 80 metres sometimes on a good day. But it's got to be 10 knots or less. And you know it's not going to come up over 10 knots. Okay? And make sure you got fuel and sell into full tank and spare. And a radio and all the rest. They come with it. But the difference is you get a longer bite period. Okay? So when we're fishing in close, we do get bite periods sometimes in the middle of the day and the afternoon, but generally the best bite period is before that sun's just coming up or just cracking to maybe an hour after. This weekend is actually not bad tides, and actually it's a really good fish bite. It's like a 3 fish bite. So theoretically the fish will bite till at least lunchtime, evening close, because it's high tide I think on Saturday about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and then you've got a bite period for 2 hours after that, so at least 10 or 11 or 12 maybe. So it's a long bite period, morning bite period, high tide, 2 hours after high tide. So just hope the weather's good, because you should smack it. Okay. So where am I going to fish for float lining? If my boat is under 5 metres and the weather's good, I'd probably go these are out of my GPS, guys, so some of these may be on sheets, but most of them are out of where I fish. So I'm dropping my pants here, so to speak. But the first two, so I work from north to south, okay, so 2741, you're north of Jumping Pin, you're up around Sully's area, and you get some really big snapper there, and you get jewies this time of year as well, but big snapper, and you get mackerel as well actually this time of year. That's the first two. The first one's Sully's, the second one is like the Cotton Reefs, or just north of Cotton Reefs, straight out from the Pin Bar. So that's 2743. And then the next three, which is 2756, 56 and 56, they all run very close, and what's like the first one and second one is like a northwest to southeast drift. It's one run, maybe 300 metres apart. The third, 2756 down, that's just a pinnacle. But they're all within about probably 500 or 600 metres of each other, and that's all at the front here. That's where I've caught many snapper around the 900 plus there, and it's my go-to definitely in July. They're just the big ones come in July there. If I see on my spot, you have to get there early, because I'll be there early before you guys most of the time. Yeah. The 2757 mark, the next one down, is just out about another mile, so that's in about 20 fathoms. That's a really good spot too. That's sort of off about Main Beach. I use the pink and blue building in the drop-off in the old days, but that's the GPS mark for it. The next two go back to where we were originally, but you're about 2 miles out further, so you're in about 22 fathoms. That's 2756, 56 again. Because as that number goes, as that 153.30, it goes from 153.29, 153.30, 31. Every time it changes up a number, you're going out an extra mile east. Does that make sense? You need to get this in your head. So you can look at there anything and think, okay, I know exactly what that is. It just comes in time, guys. We'll go all the way down to the third bottom one in that under 50 metres at 27.58. That is a really good spot. That one there's in about 22 fathoms, 40 metres roughly, 41 metres. And that one is off about focus. And I've caught some really, really big snapper there for many, many years, and every year I go there and I get big snapper. The spot just south of it is like exactly the same ridge, but it's about half a mile south. That says 27.59. And the 28.00 is a spot I fish when I go spanner crabbing. I always get snapper there too. I don't get really big ones, maybe 750 might be a big one there, but you get good numbers and you get lots. So I drop my pots out early morning on daylight. I always zoom back in there with the kids and we fish for snapper for an hour or two before we go check the pots again and get a feed. So that's a good spot. Okay. So try those marks. So that's if your boat's 5 metres and under. And if you've got a 6 metre boat, I'll probably fish the same spots because that's where the fish are at the moment in that sort of area. But the 36s have been fishing good as well, which is the under 70 metres. So in that area for float lining, we're just upping the ante a bit on the sinkers and everything. And it depends on where you want to fish. And the 27.38 and 153.36, which is the first line under 70 metres there. That one there is what we call the A mark. So it's about 5 miles north or 10 k's north of Jumping Pin Bar. And it's 36 fathoms northeast of Jumping Pin Bar. Not the Seaway, but northeast of Jumping Pin Bar. It's about a 32k run from the Seaway up to there.
That mark though, I actually, this is the same sheet as last week now. Yeah, I took them home last week and had a look at my dugout, one of my Excel sheets.
Oh.
That mark of the 27.38, within that area and around 2k's around there, it's probably where I've caught 80% of my best snapper.
Yeah, it's a great spot. Yeah. Yeah,
within 2k's of where that is.
Is that right? Yeah, yeah. It's a bit of a ridge there. And it comes up. It's the highest area of the 36 fathom reef off the Gold Coast, so to speak. It's off the pin, but off the Gold Coast. It comes from 67 metres up to 54 metres, I think. Yeah. So it's a 40-foot rise. It's a big rise, quite big.
Great spot.
Good spot.
Thanks for putting that on there, Brian.
Yes. Sorry, mate. Then. The next lot, the 27.40, is just south of there a little bit. That's sort of like down the bottom end of that ridge, actually, that we're talking about, Dave. Then 27.46 and 48. Now, this is what I was telling the gentleman tonight, and I told people last week. We have 2 ridges on the 36s here. So if that's the Seaway and that's Jumping Pin Bar and the coastline's like this sort of thing, and that's North Straddie here. That's South Straddie, and that's the Gold Coast there. Going down Tweed Heads, Denny. And this is South Stradbroke, right? We have an inner 36 fathom, and then exactly 1 mile, we have an outer 36 fathom. And this one here, on average, is around about 62 to 64 metres deep. A bit hard to see down the back. And this one here is about 64 to 68 metres, so we call it the outside edge. So there's about 4 metres difference in the height, but they run parallel with a bit of sand, like so there might be sand in between like that sort of thing, like that. But the reef, when it's exposed, is pretty well all the way next to each other for about 10 k's. So it's off and on for 10 k's, all the way along there's an inner and outer edge. If they're not on the inside, they'll be on the outside. If they're not on the outside, they'll be on the inside. You've got to just zoom from one side to the other. But those marks there, and what I'm getting at, if you look at the 153 mark, where it says 36, that's always the inside edge, and the 37 is always the outside edge. Does that make sense? So if it goes from 36 to 37, you get exactly 1 nautical mile, which is about 1.8k variance between the 2 ridges. There's only desert in between. There's not much reef. So it's just a ridge. Okay. How many people here are from Brisbane area or Toowoomba or whatever? So a few of you are. So I say to Stu, when we go out fishing a lot of the time, I don't know the people. I know everyone fishes normally, but I don't know a lot of people on the boats because I now understand. It was last year, so I'm telling Stuart, I had to go out to Sunshine Coast early, and it was about 4 in the morning, and it was in, I think, around February or March. And the amount of boats coming down, trail down to the Gold Coast was incredible. I couldn't believe every car on the other side of the highway is a boat trailer. So there must be a lot of people coming down from Brisbane, because I understand for smaller boats, it's more accessible than fishing the bay and going out through South Passage and fishing out there. It's a long way, right? Where here you got to go 4 k's and you're catching snapper. So that's why I don't recognise half the people there, because they're from Brisbane. But yeah, please put these marks in your GPSs and take advantage of it. Okay, because they're good spots. You're probably not used to the local area here. So as we go further south, we've done those 2 ridges, and then once we get about 2756, which is exactly the same latitude as the Seaway, the trouble is you're not off the Seaway when you're on the 36s. When you're on 2756, you're about off probably Main Beach, because the latitude runs on an angle that way. It doesn't run dead straight like that. It runs like an angle like that. So when you're on 56, it doesn't go straight out like that. It actually goes like that sort of thing. So the further out you go, the more southern you are, if that makes sense. So yeah. And then you get right down to 2809. So anyone down here fish off Tweed at all? Yeah, Tweed's a really good area for snapper, like a really good area. I don't get many monster snapper down there, but I get lots of numbers at times. So that 2805 and 0905 is sort of south of Burleigh, nearly Kira. And 2809's about off Tweed Heads itself. And they're both really good spots, and a lot of there's always fads in those areas too. They're really good for dolphin fish as well. If you are going to go to the 36 marks on here, have a look at the fad marks and see what the fads are. You'll generally see a lot of these marks are very close to a fad. So if I was going to go early morning at the moment, if I wasn't after dolphin fish, if I was after snapping more than dolphin fish, I would be hitting my mark on one of these marks here early, but knowing roughly where it is in relation to a fad in the vicinity. And if I want to get some dolphin fish as well, because you're out there early before most guys go dolphin fish fishing, I'd be going hard on the snapper for the first hour or so until you see the first green red lights coming out. And when you see them coming out, tell your mate to pull up real quick and get to that fad and rape it before they get to it. And then I go back to my snapper fishing. Because you're there. You're there, you deserve it first, okay? So just remember that. It's a little trick and it works, and you get quickly a dozen, only a little 60 to 80 centimetre dolphin fish, but good feed. And I'll just take plastics, I'll take pillies with no sinker on, whatever. Always go up 100 metres from a fad and cast back to it. And I'll just come out. The fish are they're never past a fad, the buoy, okay? They're always up in front of it. So once you get past the fad, you won't catch anything. But go 100 metres up from it. Most people go to the fad and start throwing, but they've already gone past it and they don't get anything. You've got to go up 100 metres past it, cast back to it. Or go just outside of it, whichever way the wind's blowing, and cast in line with the fad running north. If that makes sense, 100 metres up. You'll work it out.
So are they there all year?
Oh, they are there nearly all year, actually, but they're thick as thieves. The other day there was endless.
It's a fisher cast.
Yeah. It was the customer that went out today that texted me, is he here tonight? No, he might not be here. One of our customers, I sent him a text 10 o'clock last night. My sister said, "Oh, can you please send this guy his fad mark?" And I was sleeping. But yeah, I sent it to him, and he sent me a picture today. He smashed. He got like 14 or something on Fad 3. So Fad 3 is very, very close to, I think, the 46 or the 48 mark, the 2746 or 2748 in the under 70 metres. One of those couple. So you'll see it when you plot it in. Most of the GPSs that have a internal carb will have the yellow beacon on there for the fad anyhow, so you'll be able to see where it is in relation to where you are. Just watch the red and green lights coming there.
How far are those in kilometres, those marks there?
Sorry, mate.
How far in kilometres?
So the under 70 metres, depends on where you are, but the 2748 area on the under 70 metres, you're about 20k from the seaway, 22 max. Yep. But as you go further south, they get a fair way, and further north, they get a long way. They're probably 35k, 32k. Yep. And then the next slot's 100 under 100 metres. So we're talking about float lining at the moment, okay? So the under 100 metres is when I'm fishing out on a 50 fathom reef. And not many guys who go out there yet, but when you do go out there, it's quite spectacular fishing. It's a lot deeper and it's a lot different because it takes a lot longer for your line to get down. You cannot use that size, this doesn't work, that little one. You've got to use like that size to get down there. Like the smallest I'd ever use, it maybe be that size, 2 ounces. The 3 ounces going around earlier would be the go-to size. And you're running that on exactly the same system, but you might be using 60 or 80 pound leader instead of 40 because you just got other critters out there.
Or 16 pound if you
That's
Maybe
right.
20.
He ups to 20
Yeah,
out there.
maybe
That's
20.
right. I think you did take 20 the
Yeah, I
other
did
day.
take
too.
20 the other day.
Oh, that's a...
I'm gonna be honest, I'm interested in what you fish for groom, but mate,
Yeah, they doesn't.
Yeah.
He just throws the hook out.
Yeah, yeah.
No, Stewie's good.
Look, the other day I fished 20 pound leader, 20 pound main, 20 pound leader in 110 metres, and I got done once.
That's
That
true.
was it.
That's true.
But I caught about 4 times the amount as Doug and his son combined.
I was
But
driving
that's
the
all right.
boat, by the way. Yeah, but you did well, man.
And do you put that down really just to the?
I think it's the drag. I think it's everything looking more natural.
Definitely not technique. No, I think Stewie's
Yeah.
right. I was dropping out, and when I could get a fish, I was fishing out the side of the boat while I'm driving it. But my line was going, it was the same size weight jig, we were actually jigging that day.
Yeah.
My jig was going under the boat, and Stewie's was still
Straight up and down pretty much.
a bit better
Yeah.
angled. I was using 60 pound leader. So, okay, the under 100 metres, if you do get the chance to get out there, guys, this is great for bottom fishing out here too, by the way. So just remember this, the jumping pin bars on 2743. If you can remember that, whatever's north of there of 43, 2743 is north of jumping pin bar. And the seaway's 2756, so whatever's south of 56, or north of 56, you know that's the way it is.
13 nautical miles between them in north south, is that right?
Sorry, mate.
You got 13 nautical miles between those two jumping pairs.
That's about right. Yep, correct. Yeah, about 24 k's or something like that. That's right. And then the Tweed Heads is about 2809 or 2810. So that'll give you some idea. If you knew those 3 points, you know where you roughly are in latitude. But anyhow, all those areas on the 50s there are quite good snapper spots. And again, I've caught lots of 10 kilo snapper out there too. But as I said, the biggest ones have always been that first batch of numbers under 50 metres and the most. But where you get lots in a session. Any questions on float line at all? Back the boat up, really important. Even your big boat, Paul, you'll need to have someone on the helm backing up. Have you got a one at the back at all, mate? You have? Oh, you're lucky. Okay. You can hold the rod and just do that at the same time. There's still an art to it, but there's an art to backing up, guys. You need to allocate wind, tide, and mates that don't know how to fish with their lines around the prop. That's the hardest part. So, and you don't want to get a braid around your prop. If you do, you need to, speaking from experience, you need to have some gaff tape. Always have some gaffer tape on your boat, and you just either use the gaff hook side or on your gaff handle. I hope you have a long gaff, and you duct tape the knife handle to the end of the gaff, and you saw it with the knife blade. That's seriously how you do it, and then get the hook and actually hook the strands off, and it'll all come off. You can spin the prop.
We just lie down the leg of the outboard.
Sorry, mate.
We just lie down the leg of the
Yeah.
You try to do that, but I've fallen in the water a couple of times.
Yeah.
There's too many sharks these days. Yeah. Anyhow, just do that. It's a trick. I'll take an extendable pool broom sweeper with you. That'd be easier. Okay. We'll go back down to bottom fishing, Stu. We'll put that with the baits getting defrosted.
Slightly.
A little bit longer, maybe. Okay, so bottom fishing. How many guys here bottom fish, like as in for snapper, like as in a Patnos, the type rig? And how many people have caught good sized fish doing that? Yeah, I have been. Like some you have, but you tend to get more like little crappy things like rock cods, grinners, terrible things. Yeah, trach Jew, love it. But you will get snapper that way, but you get more snapper, and I'm not upselling you here, but you get more snapper if you have like that type of scenario, like a dressed hook. So there's a thing called a Snatcher, which is the original Black Magic one, which we do normally sell, but got stock coming again next week. Next month we sold out. There's the one that Tackle World do, which we get guys buy these by the 30s or 20s, you know.
They're very popular.
Similar to Snatcher, a bit cheaper. That's the packet for it. They're around about $9 or $8, depends how many you buy, but I'll pass that around. I've actually got that on my rod because I just want to show you how it works. That looks a bit like this one here, but they do make a difference over your standard undressed hooks. And I know we keep flogging the thing dressed hooks tonight, but it makes such a big difference. And until you try it, so I asked how many people here have tried dressed hooks? A few of you have, and you had good results, guys? Yep. Have you, in comparison? Has anyone tried no dress and dress versus? Yeah, try it if you get a chance next time. So this is just like the Paternoster one. Now there's a video I'm going to put out a little bit in a minute. And my son Jack, this is last year, we haven't, obviously snapper just starting now. I was float lining, I was trying to get videos of float lining catching snapper. And Jack likes action, so he gets a bit bored waiting for the line to take off when you're float lining. So he drops over this all the time and just catches whatever, trag, whatever. But he always beats me on the biggest snapper, doing it this way with that type of dressed hook type system. So you'll see that all right? So it's a 3-hook rig. He just cuts little tiny bits of pilchard and puts a little bit of pilchard on the dressed hook and drops it down, and he fishes the bottom with the 8-ounce sinker on the 24 fathom reef, and he's fishing it like, I'll try and do it on the top here if I can show you, but he's fishing it at about probably that loose, like that, right? So the fish has no resistance at all, and it's going to smack it hard because it feels nothing, no resistance. If you're drifting and it's taut, like I was saying before, and it lines up with an angle, there is a little bit of slackness there, but as soon as they pull on or anything, they'll feel the weight of that down there. It doesn't work quite good. But when you get a little bit of slack out and you're dropping your rod tip down as the boat goes up, and as the boat goes down, you lift your rod tip up, and that's when you learn to become a real good fisherman. You're just in touch with the bottom the whole time, having a little bit of slack the whole time. And you get endless bites and good fish. Okay? You'll understand that, so you need to master that.
Doing that on the drift though?
On the drift and everything, but I'm backing up most of the time while I'm doing it. So it allows my line to always be at that point where it's slack. And if not, I drop a bit of line out real quick until it goes loose. Just take out the slack, because as soon as you take up that bit of slack, they're already biting on it, they're there. And that's how it works. And that's the same with float lining too. But I will admit, it is really hard to concentrate on float lining while you're bottom fishing, because it's the same scenario we had similar the other day.
Yeah.
Your heavier sinkers always, you end up overshooting them while you're trying to catch up to the little sinkers. Does that make sense? You need to be, everything needs to be the perfect distance from the boat as you're going back. Otherwise, those bigger, heavier sinkers are going to go, well, you're going backwards, they're going to go forward of the boat while you're trying to catch up to the ones that are out here that are still catching up to the boat.
That really sucks, because that means you don't get to catch any fish, you're just driving the boat. That's what you're there for.
Don't need to fish very often, mate. Just drop the line down, I'll catch up, mate.
Yeah, you kind of need to do one or the other.
Yeah, you got to do one or the other. That's what I'm trying to get at. But when you are, when you don't have much current or much wind, you do both. So what you do is you cast up your float line as far as you can, and you put it in a rod holder, preferably a rod holder that's not vertical, but in a side, like a side type one or an angle, side angle one, and it's pointing the distance, the way you threw it, and it can just come off easy. So while that's coming off easy, you drop your bottom one down, and you're watching the other one the whole time. And if it goes out real fast, you chuck this one rod holder and grab that one. And you're watching that one at the same time, and when it hits the bottom and goes slack, you just grab one turn and put the rod holder, and make sure your drag's obviously always set right first, and it'll do its own thing. It'll load up and there'll be fish on it, but you're winding this other fish in. Yeah.
Question on the backing the boat up. So
Yes.
it's running a 2-knot current.
Yes.
How fast are you backing the boat up?
Okay, whatever it takes to get the slack line up, but if it's at the point, so like especially when you're deep dropping, right, but it's a lot deeper, it's a lot harder. And if the boat gets to the point where you're trying to back into the current, and there's a lot of current, and the boat spins around in the current, it's time to go home. So as long as you can back it up, mate, into the current, whatever it takes to keep your lines down straight. And it doesn't matter. So a lot of time, most of the time when I had my 680 Haynes, I had just an E-Tech 225 on it, and it was perfect in reverse the whole time. I was still, say I'm out in 65 metres and we're drifting along the 36s, I would be in reverse, but I'm still doing 1.5 knots south, even though I'm in the reverse into the current. So if you're in reverse, but you're still going the other way. And if I pull it to neutral, I'd be doing 2.5 knots that way. So just enough, mate, so it just keeps it, you can keep it slack.
And that'll depend on what sinkers you're running. So
100%, so you need to adjust that then to suit the current. So if I'm dropping this down and even though I'm in reverse, without going too stupid on the motor and making it too hard, and it's always out at a bit of an angle, I'm going to take that straight off and drop a 12 on it or a 16. Because it doesn't really matter, as long as that's slack and that's on the bottom, I'm happy, you know? Yeah.
So help me understand, why are we reversing rather than nosing into the current? Why not fish the boat, design the boat when you've got your steering wheel, nose into the current, you've got easy control, why go to the trouble of that?
Because eventually the line's always going to go at the back. It just works that way. And then it becomes a real hogwash because you've got to try and turn the boat around over the lines. It would be the sensible thing to do, and probably better thing to do if you're fishing into the wing, because the nose takes it better than the back with all the spray coming over.
If you're on your own and you're fishing one rod?
Yeah, on one rod, I'd still be backing up into it, yeah. And it's quite difficult to fish at the front of the boat, especially on a big boat like yours. Your line can be down the side.
5.5.
Oh, yeah, okay. Your line be down the side, but if it wants to go at the front a little bit, you could drive forward on it, I guess, but it would work better at the back, mate, yeah. Yeah, I've tried front ways. And when we fish in really deep water, just change the subject real quickly, but when the current's running at 4 knots and we're using like a 3 kilo lead, we actually drop the lead about 20 metres up from the spot, the exact spot, and then we drive forward. If we're fishing, say, 400 metres deep, we'll drive forward 400 metres or 450, and then pull back to neutral, then drift back, and it just free falls straight on top of the spot, and you get like a 20-second window to hopefully hook a fish up, wind it back up again. So there's lots of different methods, but you got to work it. You got to work out, because obviously I'm going to talk about that next. Is putting yourself on the spot here. You need to land on the spot because that's where the fish are. Once you go 10 metres past it, they won't swim any further than their safety area, you know. Yeah. But anyhow, paternoster rig dressed hooks is really good in close. Out wide it works too, but it's not a necessity. The fish out there are a bit more aggressive. I think it's a bit darker down deeper. They don't really care. They just want to. They smell the bait, they eat it. So Lumo beads. You've got Lumo beads in your thing too. Lumo beads are really good. Lumo tubes really good. If I'm going to fish a paternoster rig, obviously you get a lot of bycatch like trag do, like someone was saying earlier. You also get stuff like pearl perch and kingies and amberjack and everything else. But my rigs are always like a metre apart or 700 apart. I always put a gang hook on the top with a pilchard on it, and then I run. So I said circle hooks. I do use sometimes like the 4R and 5R J hooks, like suicide octopus style, but I find the circles work better because I'm trying to keep the line slack and the hook in themselves. And I'm using about a 7R or 6R. And the branch is always that long, so you need to learn to do that proper deep dropper knot, which we paternoster rig, not whatever you call it. We've got it on the video there. You can see it's in slow mo. I think you can see how it's done. Or you come to the shop and I'll show you, mate.
Yes,
but it always runs straight.
On the paternoster rig, how many branches can you technically fit in?
You can fit in 6 as a legal thing in Queensland. New South Wales it's 3. But really, the circle hooks, the fish hold on not too bad, but once you hook up 3, it's hard to get the 4th one without one of them falling off. Speaking
So
from
what's ideal? 1, 2,
experience.
3, something like that?
3 is good.
3 is good?
3 is good.
Yeah.
2's okay if you're up in the reef because the fish are generally bigger,
Yeah.
and it gets too sharky if you leave them down there too long. So, as you know, mate. Yeah. And then down the bottom here, This is a 16-ounce sinker, the 1 pound sinker. That's my two bottom ones. So 2 single hooks. Bait-wise, I'm using squid on those 2 and pilchard on the top, or mullet maybe, but generally squid and pilchard on the top. And when you're using squid, you want a piece about the size of your forefinger and go through it like a couple of times. So cut the squid in half or 3 pieces. I normally cut, if you've got a body, say that size, I'll cut the body in half and I'll cut a little bit up from the head, about maybe 2 centimetres or an inch, so I can get one hook through that piece just before the head part, and then the other hook through the head and the tentacles just hang down. So I get three baits out of one sort of average squid. When you hook up the fish, you'll hook them up and you'll feel them bouncing on. There's one on there, right? Unless it's really pulling hard, I know it's a good fish, I'm gonna pull that one straight up. But if I know it's an okay size fish, I'll just drop my rod tip enough down to that line goes slack again, but just enough to keep the weight on the other fish that's on there. And then I feel an extra boom, 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 and I'll strike that, or it'll hook itself up. And then the rod will bend over, and well, you get 2 on the end. It's up to you whether you want to load the 3rd one, but I'll get those 2 probably up. Especially fishing in 100 metres, it's a long way to go back down just for one fish.
290.
Yeah, 290, that's right. 290 would be good, mate. Yeah. Again, set your drag. The sharks, up north are a problem. Out here, they are a bit of a problem, but they're not too bad. They're bad on the mackerel and stuff like that, but not too bad on the snapper. Although Ben, where's Ben? The Ben down the white. You got done by a snapper the other day, mate. By a shark, sorry.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a good bite too, but that's a good fish, a good shark.
Yep.
Did you see it?
No. Just pulled it up and they just come up.
Yeah, so the general normal feel of a shark is you got the good fish on it, and it's like pulling hard, and then all of a sudden this pulls really hard. It's just like, there's no bang, bang, bang. It's just like a really heavy pull. I got a freight train on, and you sort of let it go. They go, I don't know. They must just hold on to the fish until their teeth cut through it, because it's quite hard to actually unhook it, so to speak, unless you break a line. Yeah, sharks, problem. So rigging up on that, you've got lots of loomer stuff, always gang hook on the top, single hooks under, 1, 2 or 3 hooks. I wouldn't bother on 1, I'd definitely go 2. And circle hooks preferably, but you can use J hooks, they're fine. J hooks you got to strike, the circle hooks you let them hook up on the slack when the line's a little bit slack. Any questions on that at all? And use a good crane swivel at the top, not just a barrel swivel. Yep. They don't spin very well. You can put a swivel there and put a snap on the end of your line and hook it through the snap. And if you do that, use it like a ball bearing type, like that sort of thing there. Yep. And that'll spin even nicer, mate, and eliminate. Because when you wind up, that's when you get a lot of the twist. Yep. And it spins on the way up, but that'll eliminate it, yeah. Anything to add to that, Stu?
No, that's about it, yeah.
Any questions on that at all, guys? Okay, so this is a scenario here. So we're going to go fish into one of these marks, and this is the GPS. Sorry for over there, my friend. That's the GPS. That's your sounder. I don't know if you can see down the back there. Okay, can you sort of see? Okay. So this is number 13. My mark number 13. This is number 9, number 10. That's 300 metres, and that's north up. So who uses their GPS in spin around the world mode? Paul, a couple of you do. Who uses north up? North up's easier, I believe. Otherwise, I get a bit disorientated, especially at night time if you go around in circles. North up, you move on the screen doesn't move around you. So I believe it's better. I think flying planes, is there any fly planes? I think flying planes, they use the spin style. But for boaties, they generally use north up. Anyhow, so that's north and that's south. And that's 300 metres. I'm blowing out to 300 metre area there. So, and I've marked my previous drift, so I say to customers all the time, please mark, every time you get a bite, mark it. Or if you go to track, so actually this is a good call. I'll just grab this green one here. I'm just going to put down like, sorry, it's not green. It's got a green lid, but it's blue. Anyway, sorry, Stu. Oh, that's a green one. Thanks, Stu. That's all right, mate. That's all right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all right. So, So my screen looks like that before I even get to the spot, okay? Because I've saved the tracks on there from last time. And so I know when the wind's blowing from a northwest in winter, okay, I'm going to drift normally that pattern because the current's always going south here most of the time. Rarely goes north. So I've done the drift there. I know exactly where to start my drift, okay? And I know exactly where to stop my drift because I haven't got any bites. I might have gone down here another time, but there's nothing down there. So I'm not wasting any time. I'm going straight to the spot and I'm ending right at the end with a bite. And if it's blown no wind or maybe a bit of northerly, direct northerly, but no wind, my current run is generally like that, and that's the run I've done before that way. And then obviously northeast, one day I was headed northeast and I'm blowing this way. So I've marked when I've got the bites, I've got a fish here, I've got my mates are hooked up there, I've quickly marked it there. I've marked it there and there and there, and that's obviously that pinnacle number 10's over there, that's that spot. And number 9, that's the start of my drift, that's my favourite drift that way there. So I've marked number 9 there. Obviously your sounder doesn't have number 9 and 10 on it, but for this instance we know that's 9 and that's 10. That's how it looks on my sounder every time I go out there. So what I do, and Stewie does the same too, first thing we do when we go out, we might pull up over here, we won't even go to that spot there, we'll pull up there in the boat and we'll get our gear ready and chop the bait up and put it on our lines, ready to drop over, right? And by that time, we might have drifted exactly in that diameter there somewhere, and we know and it's taken us 5 minutes to drift there, so it's not much drift. We're drifting at 0.8 of a knot. Beautiful drift. So I'm going to go exactly, it's a little bit more that shape than that there, so I'm going to go probably over to here, around about here somewhere, and my drift will be exactly like that as it was over here, running parallel with it. So a little bit different to what I did before. It's going to be starting a little bit different, but I'm starting sort of somewhere just before this lump here, and I might even go up to there somewhere and drift over that lump, and I know this big lump here is over there. So I'll do the first drift there because this end over here is going to be somewhere over here, maybe. And then my next drift, if I don't get fish on that drift, if I do, I'll mark another little fish there somewhere, wherever it might be. But my next drift, I think I want to hit that pinnacle because I know that's the go-to, you know, it's the honey hole, and that's right there. So I'll start over here on the inside of this, my next drift, and I'll go exactly that same parallel drift, which as long as the wind doesn't change, and I'll go straight over the top of it. By the time I get to here, hopefully I'm getting those bites at around here and drifting over that part of it. Does that make sense? But I see so many people, they just go up, they know that spot's there, and they'll pull up here, and then they'll cut the bait up, whatever. They're down here somewhere.
And then they'll put that line straight down.
And they put the line down, that's right. Unless you found, but it is the way to finding new ground, is doing that. But you want to catch fish, right? And that's the go-to. So you need to calculate it all to get on it. I know it's a lot of mucking around, but geez, it makes a difference in your fishing.
But you don't go looking for the fish first?
No, I don't if I know that that's been happening or from previous years. That's exact moon, exact everything. They should be there. But if I don't get any fish on that first drift, and I've seen that on the sounder, and I'm thinking, why aren't they biting? I might go look around a little bit, or then and after about the third drift, or I've tried a couple other spots and they're still not biting, then I haven't had time to calculate the bite time because I've been hurried to get out fishing for the day. Then I'll look back at that and try and find out some reason why they're not biting on the day. And generally it is something stupid like the moon hasn't risen or whatever it may be. So then I look at it and think, okay, the moon's going to come in 2 hours' time, so I'll just look around a little bit, or I might just keep fishing it, and they will come on the bite. It might be by the time it's sort of 10 o'clock, and next minute that same lot of fish in that same area, and I've got like 3 or 4 drifts over this time. It's like wham bam, then all of a sudden they start biting. You know, they'll come on the bite. Yeah.
With that scenario where you're showing your drifts,
yes.
and you were saying before you were casting like 40 metres up,
Mm.
and then it come back.
100%.
At that point, if you're starting at the end,
yep.
where are you throwing the line?
Okay, so I will always make sure that I'm going to cast my line. If I just like reasonably slow, I'll always make sure that's going to be up and casting in that point about there. So before I'm maybe around about this area here. But in the interim here, I'm going to have at least obviously 1 or 2 casts as well because I'm drifting for like 5 minutes, whatever it is. And the area there's here. So there's obviously generally most of your ridges out here run nearly north-south. So unless I'm over here, unless there's something there to make me want to throw it, I'll probably bottom fish and then I'll throw my floater out around this point because there's no point in it because the floaters, you got to look after it, you know, it goes past you. So I'll wait. But I will, you know, I will throw it out anyhow because I can't help myself. I hope there's a fish there on the floater as well. Yeah. The more lines in the water, the merrier, I say. It's a hard work. Does that make sense, folks, at all? Yeah. So you can't just go there and just drop your line down. You need to do that blind drift, as Stuart will say the same.
Yeah.
That blind drift first to work out which way you go. The worst case scenario is you dial it in and you're smacking them. Every time you go over here, you get that 2 drifts in, you're getting them here, and then the wind will go to the northeast. And you think, oh crap. And you know, all of a sudden, instead of that next drift you do, you go this way instead of that way. And unless there's a spot that you haven't found before and you do find a few fish, that might be right. But if you get nothing, you have to recalculate and you go over here and run parallel with that and try and nail it on the way through. And see how you go. And some days, if I'm getting back to what you were saying before, mate, if I'm getting nothing in that area there, or that area there, I'll start my drift there and just have one drop drift. And 1 fish, that's enough. You know, you just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's plenty. Otherwise, you're sitting there backing up, doing the hard work for nothing. By that time, you could have done maybe 1 or 2 drifts, 1.5 minute drifts, fish straight away up jobs, you know. Because especially in a bite period time, if they come on the bite, you've only got like a 1 or 2 hour window, and that's it. And you've got to go as much as you can, because once that stops, it goes hard again, hard to catch fish. Yeah. Okay. It's a lot, so much to learn, but it's good fun, and once you get it, you understand it. It is really easy. Really easy, but it's not easy. Like sometimes we go and don't catch fish, and they just don't want to bite, and you got all the little things ticked, and they just don't bite. Those days I can't explain yet. I don't know why that is, and that's after 50 years of fishing with my dad and fishing here.
Yeah.
I still can't dial them in, but generally speaking, everything has a fairly good pattern, and if you get all that right, and you get your drift right, and you got the bait right, and you got the gear right, you should get a good feed of fish.
What is a good pattern, like moon?
Good pattern is this weekend. So moon in the sky all day. So the moon's coming up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and it's going to be there. There's not much of a moon, it's only like a quarter of it is, or a third, but it's there the whole day. You get that high tide early morning, mid-morning, and you got that 2 hour bite period up to 2 hours after high tide for 2 hours again. And that's ready by the time it's lunchtime. You would have bagged out and snapped right there. So you're only allowed 8 per boat. So yeah. So I'm expecting big things this weekend, guys and ladies. Yeah. Whether you be in close or out further, you have no excuse. Yeah. Okay. I'll put this pilchard on. Should we just snell a couple of... Oh, do you want to...
Yeah, I'll snell a couple of
Yeah, snell a couple together, mate.
standard hooks.
Yeah. So,
Just something
So-
off.
yeah.
What's changed in the seaway since the floods?
okay, so we went out yesterday morning, as I said, and it was a bit crappy. And we went out a few weeks ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, when it first started to get shallow. Do you mind if I take this off the board now? Is that all right? Any questions on this, guys? You all good? Yeah, too late.
Well, while you got the sounder
Hey.
stuff up.
Yeah.
on, well, it's on.
Yeah, sorry.
Just like sounder settings. Like,
Sound and settings. So that's a really good question. Some sounds are terrible and some sounds are good. More times, than ever it's to do with your transducer mounting or your transducer. So, like most sounders these days are pretty good, right? When you under 50 metres, they should work perfect, no matter what sort of sound you got or no matter where you got it mounted at slow speed. A good sounder will pick up at 30 knots in 50 metres, perfect picture bottom zoomed in. A really good sounder, not a really good sounder, but a mounted right sounder in 100 metres would be the same scenario. You have a 20 metre wind dust, like there's no gaps, this is perfect, beautiful picture. A really good sounder in 400 metres does that same thing again too, but most don't. So, and I've got guys who got $30,000 X-brand sounders, and I had a X-brand, I won't say they are, but I had a brand that was $5,000 for deep water stuff I'm talking about, and I believe mine was much better than his, and at 1/6 of the cost. But I think it depends on the way you mount it and how do you dial it in, as you said. To dial it in, like generally over 80 metres, 100 metres, you go to the low frequency from high frequency. So you get more power and you're zoomed in. Instead of being like that, it's zoomed in more straight down and more power is emphasised on that area. At speed, same scenario. Low frequency is going to pick up better than high frequency because it's a lot more power in a shorter area. It's not spread out at speed. So it just depends on if your sounder can go 83 kilohertz or 50 kilohertz into low frequency, that'll definitely work. And then if your sounder's mounted in the floor, above the floor in a wet box or whatever, you don't get many bobbles at speed because it's the same, right? It doesn't go, there's no more bobbles because it's the bottom of the boat. But you tend to lose a bit of power at speed, if that makes sense, because it's shooting through. But if it's mounted over the back, the ideal scenario for most boats, not that I'm a real good sounder guy in mounting sounders, but I sort of got some idea. That's the back of the boat, sort of thing, and the motor's here, like that sort of thing. And you have like little chines, right? Sort of like this, sort of thing. I would have it mounted somewhere in that or that vicinity. And Stuart
hang on. Can you not put it there? Don't put it there. It's going to make your motor cavitate and it'll drive like an absolute pig. So put it like here or here. Sorry, Doug.
Stuart's
No.
he does outboard, so he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, no chine there, first chine here.
No, it might have a chine there, but just don't put your transducer within about 250 mil from the centre of the boat, like your skeg.
Okay, my boat's 3 metres wide here, so we're about 60 centimetres away from the motor. But the transducer is generally mounted so one part of it sort of like that. It's probably a bit high, a little bit lower, like that, about there. So you want at least the whole bottom of it to be, actually it sits straight, sorry, like that, sorry. So one side on the bottom end is nearly level with the bottom of the boat, but the top end's quite deep down. You don't want any part to be above the bottom of the boat, is that right, Stuart?
Yeah, so the part closest to your motor, you probably want, say, 5 mil at the most below the bottom of the boat.
Yeah, that's right.
And this side here is just going to be whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you want a really good picture during the whole time, it needs to be under the boat. So quite deep, like Doug's drawn it there. But you will have to put it like a spray guard or something like that on. Otherwise, you're going to be throwing this rooster tail and looking really flash when you go along. But yeah, and spraying water all over your motor and causing problems that you don't want to have later on.
So my tuning I'm doing 50 k's an hour looks like one of those 300 horsepower Mercs on the back of a speedboat. The rooster tail at the back like that. But I can pick the bottom up crystal clear at as fast as I can go. So does that make sense? So that's really important. That's probably the first thing. The second thing is, as I said, 200 kilohertz enclosed is fine. Under 50 metres, you don't need to go low frequency, even at high speed. But you want to use your, if you get too much interference, maybe change your surface clarity.
Surface clutter.
Clutter, yeah. Just put it to medium, from low to medium. And if you aren't getting much, you get too many gaps in your sounder, so We'll take that away for a sec. Let's do sounder again. And blue or green. This is your bottom. If you're getting this sort of like
it's dropping out.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's lines here and there's lots of lines here as well. That sort of effect, sort of thing, and lots of bubbles all the way up here. You need to do two things, and one is adjust your transducer. Like Stu said, drop it down lower. It's going to work heaps better. Second thing is that should eliminate this, but if you're still getting the distorted type picture, I'd push a bit more gain on until you don't want like the whole screen to be all fuzzy with crap in it. You adjust that gain so that just nearly disappears, but you got a solid bottom reading, and that should work as well. Yeah. And make sure you transduce at the back of the boat as the boat comes down on the transom, and you've got your transducer mounted sort of like this sort of thing. Here's a long style, doesn't matter. It's like that sort of thing. Sorry, off the back of the boat's here. But make sure that it's not on an angle up like that, on an angle down like that. It's got to be pretty well on the same level as the bottom of the boat, if that makes sense. Okay. So just adjust it. And if it keeps flipping up, you need to tighten it up. Simple as that too. That's probably about it, Stu, you reckon?
Yeah. Yeah, if you just get a straight edge or something and lay it along the bottom of the boat, you'll get a pretty good idea on where it should sit.
Even though it's going to be a little bit below the bottom.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit below, but just to get your line. Yeah. And as well, if you've got a fiberglass boat that's got like strakes on it, and you've got one at the front of the boat that only goes halfway down and stops, don't put your transducer within, say, 100 mil of either side, because you're going to get dirty water off the front of the boat. It's going to continue with bubbles and stuff along the bottom of the boat, and you're still going to get it at the back of the boat. So it's going to pick up all that clutter.
Sound is always a messy problem, and even though we used to sell Lowrance and Hummingbird years ago, 20 years ago. Haven't done it for a long time. We get asked every day about how to do sounders, how to read them, but obviously people who sell them don't give a good enough knowledge. I'm going to put my glasses in my pocket. Sorry. Okay, pilchard. Okay, exhibit A. So I just cut off like that much of the tail. Bye-bye. And there's different ways. You can just put the hook through the side if you want, and then put the hook through here and have that just loose. You can put this hook here through the eye and then pull it through and then dig it through the side so it comes through like that, and put that obviously through the nose. It's up to you. I think we got two here if it's two.
Yeah, I've got two. Yeah. So one dressed, one not dressed.
You do one your way, I do one my way. Oh, your pilchard's better than mine. So I got the dotted pilchard, Stuart got the blue and silver one. Has it got dots on it?
No.
So Stewie does the natural break. I don't like to do it because it goes a bit flat. I like a clean cut, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to cut yours?
Yeah, well, I'll just take a little. No.
That's right. So anyhow, if you're going to put it through the side, a good way of doing it is actually to put the hook through like that and bring it through like that. Okay, these are fairly big hooks. Okay, I'll pass this around in a sec. And then you can wrap it around if you want. You can use that bait mate as well, the elastic type stuff, and just secure that tight around this area here. But we won't do that. And I always like to go down through this way rather than go through the eye, because I find through the eye it falls out. I can use this maybe.
I'm lazy, I'll just go through the eye.
As I said, Stuart and I conflict all the time what we do. I'll pass that one around. Looks good, Stuart.
Hey?
Oh, you're stealing some of my tray, mate. So Stewie's got the gizmo on his. Mine's just a plain Jane. But I'd probably pull the eye down, the eye of the hook around with a bit of bait, mate. I didn't bring any up this time, but I've talked about it all the time. So bait mates, that elastic type stuff, you just do like 2 or 3 wraps around it and just snap it off, and it just locks on. It's incredible stuff, and the fish don't care about it, they don't see it. Okay, that's really good. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
In regards to when you were drifting, what sort of depth are you running it, mate? Like how much line are you letting out?
I'm letting out, I'm trying to, that's a good question actually. We talked about zones, so I didn't explain it. That's the top, and this is the bottom down here. The pinnacle there. And there's always fish on the bottom here, might be a bit of rubble here, a bit of like corally, wireweed type stuff, there'll be fish on that. There'll be definitely fish up here, and probably bait as well. You might get a bit of a mass of bait. And there'll be fish around that bait as well. And there'll probably fish down the side here as well. They're normally good fish, and so on. So my boat's up here, right? This is my boat up here, and I'm fishing. The zone, and so let's just say that depth there is 35 metres deep, and that comes up to maybe 32 or 31 metres, and those fish are up to about 28 metres, say. So the zone is going to be normally, I find, when you cast forward, so let's just bring this boat back up to here somewhere, all right, and we're drifting that way. All right, and I've cast up as far as I can go this way. Sorry if I can't see the other side there. But as my boat's drifting back, by the time I get to here, this goes back to that scenario before with the drifting over that pinnacle, where you stop on that drift, where you cast out in that drift. That's about where I cast out. By the time I get to here, I'm hoping that my line is down to somewhere in this vicinity here and still free falling through the fish. That's like the perfect scenario. Those fish will come up to probably around here to hit it, and they'll definitely follow it down to here to hit it. So from halfway to the bottom is good, but halfway to say 2/3 the way down, this area here, that's the honey hole. That's where so these guys here will come down to it. These guys here will come up to it, and hopefully the hit gets early, because you've got a good chance of not getting done on that pinnacle. But the more further it goes down, closer to the bottom, you know there's a chance if a big one gets you, it might go straight into that and do you on the bottom there. Yeah.
So you'd be trying to cast like 30 metres and not letting any extra line out?
No, I leave the bar alarm open. So this will actually have probably a little bit of a bow, and it might actually go back this other way. It'll probably be a little bit of a bow like that sort of thing actually. It won't be vertical straight down unless I'm using bigger sinker. Does that make sense? So it's about, so we're doing the drift first. I'm not even going to throw this line out till I've done at least one drift to know how long it's going to take me to get to there, because I know it's going to take me maybe a minute or 2 minutes to get my line down that little tiny sinker. So I need to calculate how far I'm going to drift in 2 minutes before I throw my line.
And when you're backing up, so you can see it backing up.
Yeah, so when I get to actually about probably here, and my line's got that bow in it there, I'll probably back the boat up to around here and try and take that bow out a bit so it's more straight down. Backing into the current. Backing into the wind, not the current. Or back, yeah.
Back and
So-
leave the current.
It depends which way. The other day the wind's blowing from the east, but the current's going south. That's a really hard one because it's sideways sort of thing. In that scenario, you just got to sort of back into the wind because you can't back into the current because it's side on. It's just too hard. So your line might be on a bit of an angle that way instead of that way. If that makes sense, behind the boat. So even though you back it that way, your line's still going to come back, but it comes back out a bit from the boat, and it'll still work. Yeah, but once I get to, sort of, whichever, back here a little bit further, it's once it's gone past, I might try and fish that side of it there. Yep. So that's if the wind's blowing. Actually, I'm going the wrong way around.
Your
Now.
boat's back.
Yeah, boat's back to front. That's right. Sorry, sorry. The boat's the other way. The boat's this way. Sorry. Sorry, this way. That's
Sorry,
right.
That was my idea, I apologise.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You're right. I'm looking and I'm going, no, that's not right. No, so the boat's actually facing that way. Sorry. Yeah. So it's really hard. If you've got the wind and current in the same direction, that's always beautiful. But once it goes on an angle, that's when you start running over your lines and it gets a bit tricky, backing up. But you just got to work around it. You might have to cast out that way instead of that way. That makes sense. Okay.
And you just leave that bail on open until
Yep. So I'm leaving it open until I get hit pretty well, mate. Yep, that's right.
it hits the bottom.
It hits the bottom, I want it slack, and then I might, if I'm overtaking my sinker, if the sinker stays forward of the boat, I've got too big a sinker on. It should always be with the boat or a bit behind the boat, if anything. So I need to downsize the sinker size. Yeah. That's it. Oh, that's just, oh, you got it. So well done. Okay, this is the bait, mate. It's a little bit late, but one of those, we're going around, if you wrap it around and hold the hook in tight to the body, you get no twist or no anything. We'll pass that around, twist to it. Thanks. Actually, I'll pull a bit off it, mate. Just hang a bit at the top, mate. There's different brands and this stuff, and when you put it on the fish, it actually goes like that sort of luminescent blue colour I was telling you in the water.
A little bit's enough. Can't see the end of it, but anyway.
It's good stuff. Any other questions before we go to the video? So watch the video, and Masako will play it. Do you want the lights, please, buddy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll just show you. That's a 20-ounce sinker. 16. I took a couple of shots of these sinkers. You might see it glowing actually tonight when we turn off the light here. And Sue turns it off. So, that's right down here. Can you see those glowing there? Oh, do you keep it on the seat there? Oh, it won't work. So I've got all the mod cons here. We're onto it. Perfect. Look at that done. Well done. So this is when you're using Lumo sinkers, and the Lumo hooks, and that's this standard type hooks there, right? And the little rig on there. That's with the gang hooks. That's the same rigs we got here there, guys. And you can see those ones there glowing. Can you all see that glow? Yep. But they're like hen's teeth. We've been waiting for our order 3 months. Our mates hopefully get them to us soon. So that's what they look like just in the shop when we turn the lights out. And they glow for about, some brands glow for maybe, or there's any other brand, glows for maybe about 15 minutes. These ones glow for about an hour. You don't need to charge them up for a long time.
How long does it take to charge them?
5 seconds, 10 seconds. There's a torch.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
so it goes
that's it.
off and you just get it out again?
Oh, no. Oh, they'll be still shining.
Yeah.
Yeah, still good. Maybe after half an hour, you might charge it up again. But just hold up to your light of your boat if you're fishing night time. Or a torch, or if you've got a UV torch, they're very quick. That's the best. UV torch. Or if you've got a flash. Yeah. Before UV torches come around, we used to sell, you know, remember the old flash used to put on like a Canon camera? We used to sell those as a fishing accessory. And you used to go and flash the sinkers. Because there was no UV torches back 10 years ago. Or 15 years ago. So I just want to show you, this is one when I was out with Jack last year, and we're just on that exact reef you guys got there, that third, fourth, fifth one down on the under 50 metres. Straight from the seaway, it's about 30 metres deep, 32 metres deep. 105 feet I think it is, or something like 33 metres deep. And Jack's using his bottom rig on float lining. We've got a few other fish around that sort of 50, 60, but Jack got a good one here. Oh, actually, this one's a crap one. This is a red Ned. Is it curved on the screen? That's all right though, I think. Other way then. Other way. That'll do. Yeah, that's right. He's got a short rod, short stroke of this one. So you can see that the sun hasn't come up yet. It's just cracking light. That's always the best time. We caught it in the dark, obviously, as well. So just.
It's not on the weekend.
No, last year the weather was a bit better.
Yeah, it's not going 30 knots.
Yeah, that's right. This year I have never seen weather like this bad, ever. It's consistent, comes and comes and comes and comes. And the trouble is you look at a forecast for tomorrow and it looks great, but 4 hours later look at the forecast, it's gone to 30 knots. I just don't believe they can get it so wrong at the moment for short prediction, yeah? So this is next drop. So Jack's very good fisherman for turning fish quick. That's actually, I think it might actually be on, that one Patmos one there, I think. With a 5,000 Stratic on it, or 6,000 Stratic, whatever it is. Yeah. That rod looks a bit crooked. Oh yeah, on this one. Yeah. The exact same rig. So he's turned the fish really quick, guys, at the start of the fight, and he's very fast at winding to get that up, but knowing exactly if the fish wants to pull, let him take it, and his drag's set right as well. Is that rod? Is that my eyes, or is that just the way it looks, sort of like that sort of shape? It must be the way we're standing and looking at it from here. So, how many people have caught fish sort of around 90 centimetres before? A few of you have? Yep. And you know how hard they pull, right? You've got to. Oh, that's still not too bad. But you've got to turn it, guys, straight away. When you do a gaff shot, guys, you can net them as well, but just they've got a big head, so you can't miss.
You reckon?
Well,
I can.
sure can. I always gaff my own fish regardless. I don't trust anyone to gaff my fish. It's a bit hard to see it there. But what I'm trying to show you here is even on a paternoster rig, you still catch big fish in close. And I have no doubt this year we'll do the same as well. Is there a screenshot of the sound? Has anyone seen a sounder shot yet? There's one, you'll see exactly where we are. You might be able to see, just have a look down this corner here. You might see the sounder in a minute, I think, maybe. As I said, Jack cuts a piece of pilch up at the size about 1 inch, tiny. I used to fish with an Indian gentleman years ago, Quintus was his name, heart doctor, and he was a really good fisherman, and he was the skimpiest on bait guy I've ever known in my life, and on leader, on everything, but he's a nice guy. He would tie his paternoster with the hooks no more than 25 centimetres apart, because it saved him line. And it's bait, you get like 6 to 10 pieces out of a pilchard cut up. And so a little bit of bait, a little bit of bait, a little bit of bait, and he pulled up like 3 kilo snapper. Like on each one. I don't know how he did it, but he'd do it all the time. He used to Did we see a sound screenshot there all day?
Hey, Doug, I've been at like 5 of these presentations, and the one thing I've noticed is only Jack whoever catches the
Yeah, I know.
There's no one else
That-
in the videos.
They haven't got the idea of how to video yet, so I normally pass them the rod and say, you do it, mate. You never see him hook up though, Dave. You only see him pull them in.
That's true.
Yeah. There is a screenshot there. I don't know if I can go back on that, Dave, just to quickly. Can I go back on this? Have you got that one or two? Oh, sorry. Is that down? Oh, I'm trying to find the snapper one. Oh, is you there? Oh, what's this one here? Oh no, I was just trying to find this one here. Oh, I could do that not. Okay, sorry. Guys, just watch this one for a sec. This is doing that, oh, what's this one? Oh, Albright. You guys don't want to watch an Albright, do you? No, you know the other one down, the Paternoster one? You get that there at all? Oh, that's a terrible one. Sorry. Is there a Paternoster there, though? It's got P-A-T-T, pattern. Sorry, get out of this one. And I will show it in the shop today, if you can't find it there.
Sure, is there a set of outtakes like the Doug's got?
Oh, mate.
Oh,
There's,
mate.
These are like
Cover there.
50 takers, these ones.
We just wanted to snap a video though, we just watched.
This is right.
Oh, is that live? Oh, I think I might have just pushed it back, sorry. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so Stu, put the lights back on. So, good work though, thank you. That's good. And I will show you in the shop how to do it. But there are lots of big fishing close, I always say, you don't need to go far. And as I said, if I got a 6 metre boat, I'll still probably fishing close if this weekend was the scenario. Because that's where the fish are at the moment. And lots of our customers that catch them there at the moment, except for us, because every time we get a chance to get off, it's blowing 30 knots. But anyhow.
Do you get more or better snapper on bait than you do plastics?
That's a real good call. That's why we did that's why we did the seminar last week. Like the other day, again, Jack got the fish the other day. A lot of my fishing guys is before work, so we got like a 20-minute window or a 40-minute window, and it's the way it is. We get fish. Yeah, that's real quick. So we get a fish and then we go home again. That's it. We don't spend much time. But when I get the chance during the week, if we get a day off, that's when we go home. Like the other day we fill the esky. Yeah. Totally. The other day, Jack and I went out and Jack fished plastic, so did I. I got nailed, I got done on the bottom. He got his fish up, it was about 82 centimetres straight away. This is on the same area, mate, same area. And then we went straight back home, even though we only had one drop each, that was it. Because that's all the time we had. But we're close to the water and it's very easy to go in and out. An hour turnaround period. Very quick. Yeah. So, before work. So, definitely is one better than the other.
I think bait fishing you
yeah.
get more,
Yeah.
but I think lure-wise it might be slightly better
When
at
they're
times.
When they're on the bite, definitely I go hard on lures. And sometimes when they're not biting the bite on pilchards, we've switched to lures, to plastics, or the canis jigs. I really like octo jigs sort of thing. They're really good. And just give that a shot, and sometimes we'll come up trumps with that technique. But you've got to decide the day. A lot of time we don't take bait, we just have our lure fish only, that's it. It depends on the day what you want to do. Yeah. And lately we don't take much bait. Even when we go out wide, we just take jigs and catch flatheads. No, catch lots though. Catch lots, yeah. All species. Okay, any questions at all? No, you're all, yes mate.
Live bait for snapper?
Oh yeah, live bait, we did a live bait. Okay, live bait scenario, exactly the same as float lining, but you're only using 2 snelled hooks, not circle of course. I'm using like, I think you got these in your thing too, like a 10-0. They're actually an 8-0 but not 10s. These are really good hooks. I'm running a bit heavier leader though, not 20 pound. Stu wouldn't use 20 on liveys either, I don't think.
Maybe 30.
I'd use 60 or 80, okay, and running a leader about 2 metres long, but running the sinker straight on top of the head again, straight on top of the hooks. Snelled about that far apart. Doesn't matter if they're a bit big, Dave, a bit long, because the fish needs to be able to swim freely. It doesn't want to be curved and tight, so it has to be nice. So have a bit of loose line at the side's fine. The fish they're eating it don't really give a crap. They're just going to eat it. Fishing it with a bit of a heavy drag. So I don't like to fish a light drag when I'm using liveys. That rod's just going to bend over with the fish on it. So try to remember, you want the fish to grab it and set the hooks. You don't want him to run with it. Like people say, Jewies, you know, let him run, let him run, let him run. I'm not a let it run guy. If I go dum, dum, and the next one's, it's on there, you know. Third one's always on, or I'm going to hook it if I'm in my hand. Boom, 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 bang, I'm on, it's on. So don't let it run. Yeah. So there's a time to let fish run. That's generally when you float lining sometimes, but definitely not when you're using liveys. And it's exactly the same area, the same scenario, the same backing up, the same everything, just using a different bait. When you get the big snapper on liveys, and you get really big snapper on liveys, they tend to be the days that it's hard to get liveys. So in those scenario days, when we get lots of liveys, we've got them out the back, you get lots of mac tuna and crap like that, or Spanish might bite you off, whatever, this time of the year. But the days when you drop down and you can't get liveys, you might get a goatfish or something like that, we put the goatfish out live. We'll put the legal tailor, whatever. Put it out live. It's got to be the right. It doesn't have to be the right way. You think the right scenario, which might be a slimy or yakka, or whatever. It can be like as I caught fish. I've caught them on goatfish. I've caught them on. I caught them on grinner fillets, not grinner live. Trag fillets, tailor fillets, anything fillets, all right. On the same. I believe it or not, Paul, I've tried mullet. Like my dad years ago would make me get the bait net and go and get live mullet, some live, some dead, and we'd take them out. I don't know if he's a cheapskate on bait or not, but it never used to work very good, believe it or not. But in the broadwater, it works fantastic, you know. Offshore mullets, I've trolled mullet and had them swimming for marlin and had lots of mackerel bite-offs, but I've never really done well with mullet, except for fillets, bottom fishing out in deep water. I've never had much luck with live mullet out the back of the boat offshore. Same? Yeah, but they're easy to get right in the back of the yard. Yeah. So when you can get those days where they're really hard to get, I don't care if it's a goatfish or whatever it is, a goatfish are fantastic live bait. Got so many big jewies and goatfish too. Even if they're that big, doesn't matter. Just chuck them out live. So remember that one, because if you can't get, it doesn't have to be yakkers or slimies. Okay. I think I even caught a cobra on a sweep. Nice sweep. Pearly's a good live bait too, by the way, wide, 38 centimetres now, the big pearly. But yeah, back in the day. Squire's good live bait, they've got to be 35, of course. Yeah. They eat anything.
Just going back a bit, one of the guys here asked what's changed in the seaway.
Oh yeah, so I didn't get to finish the sentence. I think you go first.
I haven't been out since the flood, so
Okay, so I was about to draw it actually. Real quickly I'll show. I know we're going a bit late here, but sorry guys, it's all information to help you. So the other day when I'll go back 2 months ago. So that's the north wall, south wall of the seaway, and that's the north wall over here. Okay, and actually I might just draw this back a little bit, sorry. South wall and the north wall here. And there's always dead man's bank, like it's a little bit deep through here, but there's always dead man's bank sort of goes around that and goes out like so. And then I had a little bit of bank start to build up out the front here of the south wall. But when it got really bad, when we had the big flood last month, where it was, this bank here went right across to about this area here. And it went all the way along to near the jetty. So it was one big break, and it was actually even when it's like low tide or high tide, didn't matter. It was actually dumping like shallow. So the first time we noticed was, and we went out mackerel fishing, and on the way back, because I didn't know about any sand back there, and finally a break in the weather, so we zoomed out mackerel fishing. We got a few Spanish, and we come back in. It was low tide, and we got to about here because we went out at high tide in the dark, and I always stick sort of around this area here, and then dog leg that way. That's just the way I do it. This particular week, just come back in. We got to about here, and I saw a bit of white stuff there, and I didn't realise what it was. And then it was near low tide, or half, or 2/3 way down. And next minute, the wave I was on just broke. The one in front broke, and so I quickly looked around behind me, and we jumped on the back of that one and rode it in and broke in front of us because we couldn't do anything. We were already here, you know. That's when I realised how shallow it was, and I looked at the sound. It was 2.4 metres, I think it was, at that time, and we're out near the middle of the bloody seaway, or one third to halfway across. Then the next time we went out, obviously we started to know about this bank here, and it got really rough, and there was a lot of pictures coming in of massive waves breaking in this area here. We went out again, and I think it was around about 3.7 or 3.8 metres or something.
Yeah.
It got a bit deeper, and then went out again. It was around about, quote me if I'm wrong, some of you guys that get a fair bit will know, it was around about 5 or 6 metres deep. It started to get deep again, and the sand pumping jetty is apparently going again. But I know now, I heard the other day, they're doing some work on it again. And when we come through yesterday morning, was it 4.5, should I say?
Yeah, it was about 4.5, 5 metres.
Yeah, and
so
that was
a bit shallow.
And that was at high tide. Yeah, so it's shallowed up a bit again. So, and as I say to Stuart, like normally 1/3 of the depth it'll break at a certain swell, if that makes sense. So if it's 6 metres deep, a 2 metre wave will break in 6 metres deep. If it's the right situation, gets sort of pulled up and rolled over. So you just got to be careful. So the scenario is you're about probably 3/4 the way across, and that's the green. This wraps around here. There's a green here and a green here, and red's over here, and that's the sort of pipe goes across like that. I'd go around these here, then go out here, but there's also a bit of another bank. This one's come a bit wider. It's dropped back a bit the other day, but you need to be careful of any break here. Then once you get out, maybe 80 to 100 metres past the north wall before you get towards Dead Man's, and then Dogleg southeast. But make sure you're way clear of this back bank out here, because they'll roll through there too. It's probably about the best way to explain it, unless I'm wrong. Yeah. So when you come back in, unless the swell's, if it's under a metre or 1.5 metres, you should be pretty right. Maybe at low tide, just to be a bit careful. Because again, you're talking 4.5, 1.5 metre swell, it may break. But I'd be coming in at here and then coming down here. Once you get about level with the north wall here, it drops down to about 8 metres pretty quick. And then it goes down like 15 metres. Yeah. But I see, yes, I was out this morning again. I went for a quick flatty fish in the seaway over here. No flathead, by the way. But there was a yellow work boat. I don't know what it is, what's the boat. It's in the distance and it's going up and down here. So I don't know what he's doing. But it's a commercial type tug work boat thing. Does anyone know about that at all? What's happening there? No. I don't know if he's doing surveying or he's doing something. I don't know what he's doing. But he started early and it was there when I left at about 7:30.
Don't know mail on whether the pin's got any different conditions?
Yeah, so the pin bar, I was talking to young Lockie up there. His mum and dad have got the Tipler's resort up there, the thing. And he goes after the pin bar all the time. And he said they went out the other day, on the best day we had, Easter Monday or Tuesday after Easter. And he said it's broken, cracked across the back, right across. So I thought they were out. Then a couple of big ones stood up. So you just got to be careful. That back. The pin bar's a bit different. See where you got like one break maybe, where the pin bar's continuous, and you think you're out. It's a bit like South Bass is even worse. You got to go like that to get through it, you know. And then wide bay's worse again.
Parallel channel's still good.
The parallel channels north and south, I think they closed out. I think. Yeah. So the like if you go down the beach centre here, say down at SeaWorld or wherever, there is a fairly definite gutter all the way along. So theoretically, they should go that, but there's no opening. So there's a gutter there to go through, but you go nowhere. It closes out. Yeah. So pin bars, like one of those bars, unless you know it really well or you got local expertise on the day before, I wouldn't bother trying it unless it smells a metre. Yeah. Yeah, I got stuck on there once. I come in and the motor stopped. But the waves were only small. We just popped up and went over the bank. Yeah. But we'd been through that 100 times maybe now. But just got to be careful. Yeah. And one time we were there, we went out in the dark and I thought it was an island. Oh, this is an island. This was a wave. And there's just cracking light daylight, you know. And I know where to go. I was in my 680 and we camped at Karachi. And the phone reception, I always check the wave flyer, always check it in the morning if I get in the dark, because the swell spikes overnight. And you guys should do the same too. Always check the swell wave buoy before you go out in the morning. Even if you know it's going to be, they say 1.5 metres, don't just check it.
That wave buoy, they had two measurements. One's significant.
Yeah, so it's the other ones are sets. So the red lines are sets, and the blue or black lines are standard waves. Yeah. So that's the peak set that comes through every now and then, and it doesn't actually go down like that. It just carries across to the next set. Yeah. So at the moment I think it's 1.5 and the set's 3 metres. That's for tomorrow. I looked at tonight. The swell's picked up a little bit again. Even though today wasn't as windy as yesterday, but it was a bit windy today, wasn't it? Northerlies, yeah, northerlies. But anyhow, just check the thing. But we couldn't get reception, so we just went out. We were out 2 days prior, every morning going out, and we went out the pin bar that morning, and it spiked like from 1.5 metres to 3.5 metres, and we were already committed. And it's cracking daylight, and it's this big black thing. I thought it was an island. What is that? And then I realised it's a wave. And yeah. We'll stop. Okay, let's start. Okay, draw. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed it tonight. Thanks, Stuart. Awesome, buddy. And guys, as I said, you've got a good moon phase. You've got Saturday, supposedly good weather. And you know how to do it now, so go and do it, please. Good luck. Okay, the draw tonight. We've got 6 prizes, about $800 worth in total. Stewie can do the call and the name. There you go, buddy. And we're open for half an hour time if you want to grab something, guys. Otherwise, 30% off everything for the next 2 weeks. So next week I'll go out to 1770 for a fish. So we're going to do a talk on reef fishing. I don't know if you guys go out to the reef at all, but we're going to do a talk on reef fishing, like 1770 early beach style. Probably in July though. Okay. If you're interested, come along.
It's number 21. Mark.
Well done, mate. Good stuff. Doing, mate? Well done, buddy. Thank you. Cheers, mate. Okay, Stewie. Excellent. Oops. Watch those tips then.
Second place is number 19.
Oh, well done, mate. I'll be playing you, mate.
Yeah, thanks.
You'll win the poker game. I'll be playing your poker, mate. Third prize, I think, is still about $150 worth.
We're all down the back of the room tonight. 22.
Wow. Good on you, mate. Now, this guy's a good snapper fisherman, so you've got the information. You pump him, okay? Good on you, matey. You always see Ben in Facebook. If you follow Ben, he gets a lot of snapper. He's a good fisherman.
Number 9.
Oh, well done, matey. Awesome. See you, buddy. Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. Guys, thanks for coming along. Our next seminar is on pearl perch. Okay. But that's mainly up wider, so I get some idea of the amount of guys who've got bigger boats here. So you're talking like 5 metre boats and up. You're talking on average about 36 fathoms and beyond. It's about 150 metres deep. So we'll cover that next time.
Number 1. Jeff.
Well done, mate. Good on you, buddy. Thank you. And last one is still about, I think around 40, 50 bucks.
Number 17.
17. Drew, well done, buddy. Welcome back, mate.